Welcome back to MADCAST. This is your host, Spider Jerusalem. I've hijacked Madman's channel. He's tied up in the back. But don't worry, I'll let him go free once I'm done with this little video here, and the video that comes after it. So I want to do two reaction videos for the next two videos of this series. The first one is going to be me reacting to this video Sam Hyde made called Dear Elon. The second reaction is going to be to Asmongold's reaction to the video. I may not do that second one if it turns out to suck, but I tried to do this one a couple days ago. Didn't turn out great. I uploaded it. I was kind of excited. I was happy that I'd even gone through the video in the first place. I was a little overzealous. But we're going to soldier on. We're going to sarge on like Sargon of Akkad. I'm going to get this video made, okay? So I'm just going to be reacting to Sam's points. I don't have any pre-formed opinions or ideas. I don't have my trademark 5 points for this video. I'm basically just going to be reacting to it. As if it's the first time I've seen it, although I've watched it like 4 times, because I find it funny. So, with that having been said, let's move things along here. I just need to make sure the volume is not totally fucked. Let's get that down a little bit. Okay, here we go.
Glad I caught you. Glad I got you there. Elon Musk. Oh, by the way, please don't watch this if you're not Elon Musk, okay? This is a one-off video that we're doing. This is private, personal. I put this in his email. I don't know how you got this, unless you're on the Asmongold Discord server, in which case you know my every move, okay? Me and Asmongold have been planning this.
So point number one, I gotta say, this sort of way of trying to forcefully associate oneself with a popular creator to get more exposure, more views. In my previous reaction to this, I kind of dabbed on it. I was like, oh, why would anybody do that? Now I'm doing it. In fact, I was doing it in that previous video. I was acting like an idiot. Obviously, you have to forcefully associate yourself with popular people if you want to get popular, or if you think you have a message that should be disseminated. It's the impulse behind that desire for more exposure that I think is important. Or do you want to be popular just to be popular, just to make money, or do you want to be popular because you think you have a message that needs to be distributed? I think Sam's in the latter category. I think he thinks that what he has to think and say should be more widely distributed. More people should hear it. It should be given more consideration in American society. And I respect him for that. I respect him for not chasing popularity, because if he was chasing popularity, he would have just spread his cheeks for Adult Swim and done whatever they wanted him to do to make his show acceptable at the time. And he didn't do that. And that to me indicates that he's the type of person that has real integrity. He's a great comedian. I don't agree with everything he says, but some of his takes, nice. I like him. So that's all I'm going to say about that. In my last attempt to react to this video, I went off on a bunch of tangents about, you know, about the trend of like trying to wedge your way into a kind of celebrity cadre by any means necessary. And I think that was unfair of me to misjudge Sam's intent. I think he's a passionate guy, and he's an intelligent guy, and he has various opinions that he feels need to be disseminated by really any means necessary. And that's a rare type of human being. It's a rare type of man. So, respect. Let's get back to things.
For a while now, Moist Critical's involved, and yeah, I guess if you're on the Moist Critical Discord server, you would have access to this file. So kudos to you, hacker. I don't think Elon's gonna watch this. And listen, I know as a comedian, first and foremost, I don't expect people to take me seriously, but it is a fact that shit posting and public opinion are now intermingled permanently, and it's not going anywhere.
I got to make one point here. I think when comedians in general start to get more serious with their routines, it's a potential indicator that there's a real serious issue with the society that those comedians arose from. And the best example I can think of to support this point, that when comedians get serious, it means there's society is in crisis. The Shakespeare play King Lear features a jester, or a basically the equivalent of a modern day comedian. And there's points in that play where that comedic character starts to try to actually give the king, who is this doddering, very similar to Joe Biden. It's interesting, Joe Biden's very similar to King Lear, trying to divide up his kingdom. There's points in that play where the jester, who is like farting in the king's face and clowning around and making fun of everyone, and the king loves it. There's points where that jester gets serious and he says to the king, like, you're actually like fucking up, or you've already fucked up, and I'm just going to straight up tell you. And the comedy kind of falls away, and the serious advice of the jester starts to bubble up through that veneer of comedy. And I think that when more than a couple of comedians start doing this, like when Sam Hyde, Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon, these types of figures in the American jester subclass start to actually openly criticize the ruling class of people in that society, it's a definite indicator that shit is fucked. And it's why I pay attention to this stuff. And it's why I have a lot of respect for all those comedians I just named. I have massive amounts of respect for them. I'm not a comedian. I'm not a stand-up guy. At most, I'm maybe a nerdy commentator on things at this point. Anyway, again, I'm sort of going through some weird shit in my life right now, so I'm trying some different things. Probably a lot too late to try them, but that's beside the point. I just wanted to bring that up. When comedians get serious, it means society needs to get fucking serious. It means that there's not just banal, random things to make fun of anymore. Like the lightheartedness, even in the comedians, is starting to fade. That's a big fucking deal. Let's get back to things.
And that's just the way it is. I get all my news from memes, basically. That's how I get
Most
my
people
news.
do now.
Is that how you get your
Yeah,
news?
news comes from
You get
memes.
the news if you weren't looking at memes. You watch a show. That's even more fucking retarded. We turn that off. It's a smart thermostat, so it's going to take 15 minutes to figure out how that fucking...
Well, the shows are just getting their news from memes too. I mean, Jon Stewart's writers or John Oliver's writers, I'm sure, are just trawling Reddit and 4chan for popular memes and then deconstructing them to form comedic bits. Like, I think that's been true for maybe 5 or 7 years at least now. So again, Sam's pointing something out that has been going on for a long time, I think.
thing works. It's very intuitive. I don't know why the Nest thermostat is taking you so long to learn and intuit. Okay, a toddler could figure this out. A toddler on an iPad could figure out how to use the Nest thermostat. That's Chris Lynch, by the way, Elon. Do not hire him, okay? He's leaving this job very soon. See, he's white. He's too lazy. Chris, you're so lazy and white. Well, yeah. You guys should have studied violin harder as kids.
I mean, I gotta say, studying music is supposed to be good for your brain. It's supposed to help you with mathematics and learning multiple languages. But yeah, it is a stereotype that, in particular, Asian families will force their kids to learn music. That may not be a bad thing, but my parents were adamant about me learning music. I don't blame them for it, but nothing ever really took off for me musically except the bass guitar, because I was too stupid for piano. And the bass guitar, I was like, oh, this only has 4 strings, and I can play slowly. I can deal with that. Because most of my brain is devoted to language. It's been mutated and taken over by the virus of language. So I didn't have enough room to also be a musician, except if I can, like an ape plucking bananas from a tree, I can pluck bass strings. I can do that. I can sing, too. That's just a random gift, though. That's, you either have perfect pitch or you don't. But anyway, I find it funny that he references that. That's like a sort of, it's a subtle joke. I like it. And I'll say one more thing before you go back. This video is basically about the H-1B issue, which Musk banned a bunch of people for. And of course, ironically now, I'm making this video on January 20th, the day of Trump's inauguration. Salute to the President of the Free World! But I'm making this video on the morning, I guess, because I'm a fucking freak who stays up all night, so I can't work unless it's nighttime. There's no distractions when it's night. There's no potential. I'll go off on a little tangent here. The reason I work at night is because during the day, even if I'm with the most accommodating, amazing, perfect roommates or parents or people, it's my parents, and they're being the most accommodating they can be, there's a non-zero chance of me being interrupted when I'm trying to work. But if I'm working at night, there's a 0% chance. So I'm going to go with the 0%. Anyway, as if this is fucking work. My point is just, this video's point is about the visa thing, which involved Musk censoring people on Twitter or X. And ironically, he did the same thing to Asmongold, which is a streamer that I've been watching more recently. Personally, I've been gravitating more towards his videos because he seems like a guy who isn't afraid to show his power level a little bit. He's far more intelligent than I think he comes across to his base of viewers, which is a respectable thing, that he's willing to sort of stick his neck out in that way. And the fact that Musk also sort of spurred out against him, and it was most likely just a miscommunication. Again, Asmongold's made videos about this that I've watched. It's interesting that Sam sort of pointed this out, and then the Musk-Asmongold confrontation came about very quickly after that video, this video of Sam's, rather. So, let's go back and keep on keeping on.
I swear to God, Vivek would have figured this out by now. I want to believe that Elon is one of the great men of our age, and that he has what it takes to become a 21st century Andrew Carnegie. I think it's important to have great men to look up to. Trump, Joe Rogan, oh there it goes, Elon, Tucker. And it's not necessarily important that our great men are perfect, but there are symbols of what...
This goes back to something I said about the great man theory in history. And I think there's sort of a division into two camps in history, in the study of history academically. There's people who think it's great men, and there's people who think it's social conditions that produce rapid change. That's an oversimplification of the argument, but that's basically it. Those same two opinions about how history progresses can also be applied to social engineering, or the idea of social engineering, where if you just change the social structures and strictures and expected behaviors in a society, then magically you will produce the greatest benefit for the most people. That's inherently a left-wing idea. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm saying it's left-wing. That's all it is. It's left-wing. The left wants to, it leans towards a kind of systematizing impulse to impose a grid, which paradoxically and stupidly is always come up with by humans. People come up with a system to try to socially engineer people, and it's like the system is human born. It's born out of human minds. Obviously, it's inherently flawed if it's something humans devised. What the religious far right will say in opposition to that, in extreme opposition, is, well, nature and the human body's current structure were not devised by people. Therefore, they must have come from something outside of human beings. What is that thing? We'll call it God. Maybe that's the path we should be walking, is the pre-existence of a system in which we already find ourselves. Because it's separate from the human brain did not devise it. Maybe we should trust that. Jesus, take the wheel. I don't believe that, but that's the extreme opposition to like the extreme left point that, oh, we can just invent computers to systematize humanity and everyone will magically become more prosperous. They're both pipe dreams. It's two different pipes going in two different directions. Again, check out my video on dualism and why it's retarded. But what Sam's talking about here with this H-1B shit, it touches on those ideas of like, do you rely on random chance and evolution and genetics to occasionally produce a person that has such a magnificent impact on society that they're worth society being free, they're worth society being more chaotic, because their mere presence can accelerate human flourishing and productivity beyond what a society that was more restrictive and more computational could have produced. And again, I don't think this binary is even true. I think you can have a society that relies on computation and systematization and also allows great men to exist. I think those two things can exist simultaneously, because the only reason we think they can't is because we're stuck in this false binary of thinking that reality can be reduced to like an eternal battle between emotion and logic. They never cooperate. Emotion and logic are eternal enemies, like men and women, like blue and red, black and white. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Duh! I think that's an oversimplification. Call me fucking crazy for thinking that that's too simple a way of looking at things. But that's, again, why I love this video, is it touches on these issues that I've been thinking about for years and haven't really had an excuse to talk about. So again, I'm going to be pausing a lot. If that bothers you, go fuck yourself. This is my reaction to this video. Let's get back to it.
Of what we could be. I think if Ron Paul took steroids, he would be my number one. That'd be my number one.
Ron Paul's son is still floating around. Support him. Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders, man. Put them in office. Elizabeth Warren, I don't know. Ron Paul's son and Elizabeth Warren, put them in seats. Give them seats. Or elevate them.
He just said that woke liberals aren't cool. He's based. What does he say?
I'll stop things briefly here just to say that, again, in my last video, I was unfair to Sam. That's part of the reason I took that video down. It was cringe. I claimed in that video that Sam was like fleecing a base of disaffected Bible Belt, neat men. So they're raised on a Christian ideology that's being contradicted by society. They're raised on an expectation to have a family and buy a house in their late 20s. That's not possible. And he's been very effective as a comedian in sort of channeling that sense of disaffection and jadedness, and actually motivating that base of people. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. And again, I don't think Sam is doing this out of selfishness. He's not doing it to make money. I don't think he's part of some fucking creepy conspiracy. He's just a guy who, like Alex Jones, like Joe Rogan, like all these people, they're flawed people. They have a lot of opinions I don't agree with. They have a lot of ideas that I don't find agreeable personally, but that doesn't mean that I don't support their ability to potentially elevate and help large amounts of people who don't have a person that they can look up to for that kind of motivation, that kind of help. Sam's stuff has personally motivated me in times when I felt my life wasn't balanced, when I was inundated with opinions I didn't agree with. I was pressured to agree with things I didn't actually think were correct, and he provided a way for me to temporarily idolize him, hopefully in a healthy way. If you don't want to be worshiping other people. It's like worshiping a hooker. You don't want to do that with an intellectual figure. It's the emotional equivalent of worshiping an intellectual figure is you're simping for like a hooker. You want to marry the hooker. You don't want to do that. And again, I'm not saying Sam is like an intellectual prostitute. I'm just saying it's a useful analogy. I do think that what Sam's doing with his base of people, of which I am a part, is he's trying to actually help them. And he's doing so in spite of a system that just wants to burn them, just wants to throw them into the new concentration camps for unproductive white people, which hopefully won't exist, but there is an anxiety among white people that they're all just going to be killed or replaced in some kind of neo concentration camp type of system. And I think some of those fears may have valid, they may have validity to them, or at least people think they do. It doesn't even matter if they're valid. If enough people think they're valid, then that's the same type of problem, right? So I respect Sam for doing this, and I was not feeling great on the day I recorded the last reaction to this. I wasn't feeling very good, so I was very vitriolic, and I kind of fucked up. I posted my L's online. Google probably saved that video somewhere. I don't give a shit. This is the new version of it. This is the version I support now. If I don't support it, if I rewatch this and it seems disingenuous or not representative of my viewpoints, then I won't publish it in the first place. I won't upload it. Anyway, that's the sort of point about Sam's bass that I wanted to make. One last thing I want to say is that Sam's bass and Elon's bass are overlapping, which is why he's making this video, obviously, because a lot of his viewers have the same opinions about society and free speech and about race and nationality, and it makes sense that he was compelled to make this video. It's a good idea to make this video. It's a good idea for Asmongold to respond to it. I don't know if it's a good idea for me to respond to it, but I'm doing it anyway, so I don't know. Here it is. It's whatever, yo.
Yeah, anytime you post an AI kitten in a MAGA hat, people lose their... He's based! Fucking based, man. For the guy who's the free speech guy, and not only that, but the reasoning from first principles guy, the logical fallacy guy, the Reddit guy, good faith argue with everybody, whatever. All that shit. Blanket banning groypers, taking away blue checks, changing the algorithm of the site because 100 people ratioed you, because there's fucking 50,000 posts. They're all organic, by the way. This is not some Russian bot farm. It's not some nefarious behind the scenes. Let's mess with Elon. We're gonna fuck with him.
I gotta talk about why Sam... I gotta talk about the fact that, Sam looks like Trotsky, man. I gotta say it. A lot of people have said this before, but Trotsky was, if I'm correct, he was a rebel Russian? Let me just let's look up Leon Trotsky. Let's just look him up for a sec. Let's get some context going in here, so I'm not talking out of my ass. Okay. Born to a wealthy Jewish family in Ukraine. Interesting. Jews in Ukraine? 2025? I don't know. Interesting. He opposed Stalin. That's a good thing. If you opposed Stalinism, history has vindicated you, man. Written out of Soviet history. Fucking hell, man. Damn. Again, I'm just skimming the article, guys. I'm stimming and I'm skimming. If you're an academic like me, you have to learn how to read things quickly and gravitate towards important sentences. And it sounds like coke, but you do eventually develop a certain skill of being like, okay, summary, oh, there's the point. And you can read things like 10 times faster and still derive the important information from whatever text you're reading. He was imprisoned, married a Siberian exile, split off from Lenin. Okay, let's just skip forward to his death here. That's what's important. Yeah, I think he deserted, didn't he? Dealing with deserters, he appealed to them politically. Interesting. He was leader of the Red Army for a while. He was attacked. Again, I'm grossly summarizing this. Anyone who has any knowledge of this is going to think I'm an idiot, because I am. I've not read about this. Where is his death? That's what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to compare this guy to Sam here. I'm trying to make a false comparison for YouTube purposes. That's not true. Let's just look up how did Trotsky die. Let's look that up. Okay, Britannica. Ooh, yes. Okay, so he sought asylum in Mexico. And in 1940, a bunch of guys with machine guns attacked his house. He survived. They tried to kill him again. He survived again. And eventually Spanish communist Ramon Mercader killed him with an ice pick. Acting on Stalin's orders. Okay. That's mostly bullshit. It's just based on appearance. Also, Rest is History is a good podcast. You guys should watch that. But anyway, the fact that he's talking about politics and he looks like this, Sam is not unaware of this. He's not an idiot. And I do think he's willing to die for what he's saying, which is extremely rare and respectable. So that's basically all I wanted to say about that long ass tangent. This is turning into the last video. It's turning into more bullshit. So let's go back to things.
It's not what it is. It's you tapped into a...
Again, we're fleecing the same base, is what I said in the last video. Sam and Elon are both trying to save the sort of disaffected Bible Belt Christian-raised men in the States whose economic opportunities are so shit that they're giving up on life. And spoiler alert, there's a lot of those people in other countries too. There's a lot of people in Canada, Australia, Europe. There's a lot of people who feel like this.
People fucking love you.
It's the Kali Yuga. It's the sign of the fucking
Nobody
times.
is trying to get you to become turbo base build full Pat Buchanan immigration policy. People broadly understand that you are a San Francisco, Tech, California, international immigrant. If you want to be a regular tech guy, that's fine. You can do that. You can be Larry Ellison. You can go play on the boat. Nobody's going to give a fuck. Realize what you're fighting for. If you're going to be the tech king, you've courted the MAGA base. You wanted these people on your side. They're ready to be on your side, but you have to fight not for Ben Shapiro's idea.
And this is where I have to make 2 points. I'll try to be as quick as I can. Point number one, Sam assumes Elon has good intentions. That's a good thing. If you're an optimistic person, you should assume that. I don't think he does. I think he just wants to make money. And I think that he doesn't have anybody's particular interests in mind. It's the interests of the cadre of people that he has found himself associating with because he made PayPal. And once you get into that echelon, you're not looking at demographics as groups to help or save. You're not looking at countries or nations as structures that deserve to be saved. You're just looking at profits and numbers. And Sam knows this, and I also would love to believe that Elon is a good guy, that he actually does have the interests of the American people in mind. I would love to believe that. I can't convince myself to do it. You can call me a nihilist, you can call me a fatalist or a cynic or whatever. I don't give a shit. On this point, I don't believe that he is actually fighting for any type of particular people, whether it's white people or Americans or whatever. He's fighting for money. The thing he's fighting for is money. If he had a flag, it would be a dollar sign. It's just money. When you get to that level, your temptation that you have to avoid is money, and very few people, when they're in that level of hell, can resist the temptation of money because it's a hell of a temptation. It opens up all these avenues of luxury and insane wish fulfillment that most people don't even have access to in their fucking dreams. And if you can avoid that, then you're a true leader, then you're ascending, then you're moving up, to use Christian metaphors. I don't know if Elon's pretending to be hypnotized by money. I don't think he is. I think he's just a guy. He's just a person. He's a human being. He has flaws and strengths, like we all do. But he's made a ton of money, and now he's in this position where he's He's going to be in control of a large portion of the United States government for the next 4 years and what it does in terms of trying to reform itself. And Sam is right to make this video. He's right to try to criticize this guy and call him out on his bullshit. And I agree with that. The second point I want to make, really quick, is that America is actually a collection of ideas. Every culture is a collection of ideas. It's a lot like how I talked about every culture being based on performance in one of my previous videos. In the same sense, every culture is based on a set of founding ideas or ideals, which are the same thing. And I spent too long in the last attempt to make this video talking about how ideas and ideals are the same thing. An ideal is basically just an idea elevated to a pseudo-religious status. It's like it's like a golden calf. It's like, oh, this ideal we have is how everybody should behave. Everybody should sacrifice to Baal or to Moloch. Everybody should get up at 9 a.m. and go to work and then come home at 5 p.m. You know, you pick your example. It's the systematization of human behavior, which is necessary. The only real question is which system is the best, or which system is the least shitty. My point is that all societies are based on sets of ideas, and Ben Shapiro talking about how America is this set of ideas, that serves whatever his profit motive is to try to get more viewers. If he wants more people to watch his podcast, and if he's fleecing a sub-demographic of people, of sort of legacy right-wingers in the States that have a particular conception of America, then he's going to pretend to venerate those ideas. But he doesn't actually give a shit. Just like Elon Musk does not actually give a shit about his constituents, about the users of X. It's not, he's not even being idyllic. It'd be bad enough if he was idyllic, but he's not even being idyllic. It's just money. And Sam points this out in this video. This video is like Sam trying to convince himself of the points he's going to make. So let's go back to things here.
Of the country of America.
He's right. He's just trying to convince himself that he's right.
That's not what it is.
And that's not to knock the guy.
That's who you have to fight for. If you're in America, doing business in America, you want to be the man in America, you have to fight for the American people. You're not fighting for a paragraph. You're not fighting for a set of ideas, man. It's the American people who need.
And again, in my last reaction to this video, I sort of criticized Sam. I was like, you don't know that Musk is doing this just for money. And I interpreted Sam's appeal to his base of supporters by saying Sam's just telling his supporters what they want to hear. I don't actually think that's true. I'm not that heartless, but I was feeling very cynical when I made that video. And you know, call me a liar if you want, but that's why I deleted the video.
Your help. That's fundamentally why I think people are pissed off here. And it's an easy fix. Just don't call them retards. Elon, have you met Chris? He's on Asmongold. He's streaming all the time. You should check him out. He's playing these games and stuff. He's amazing what the kid does with video games. I can't believe it. People didn't suddenly have a flare-up of India hate. I've been monitoring the Indian hate websites for a while. It's actually set to my homepage. I've been checking these websites out. I watch what these people do. There were very few overt Indian haters spewing their nonsensical filth everywhere 72 hours ago. What happened? Okay, 72 hours ago, most people in the MAGA base looked at Vivek Ramaswamy with some notion of admiration, or hey, that guy says cool stuff every once in a while. Hey, you know what? I think I like that guy. Now, he's got to be deported. Sucks, man. And he's not being deported because of the color of his skin. He's being deported for the content of his character. And I think that truly was a mask-off moment where we saw that Vivek Ramaswamy really is.
In the phrase mask-off moment, remember my discussion about performance in society. when the top performers in any society, it doesn't matter if it's the US or China or Russia or Australia or Europe or whatever, or fucking Africa, when the masks come off, it's usually a bad thing. It's a lot like comedians or jesters starting to just tell the truth without jokes, because that means things have gotten so desperate that truth tellers are coming out of the woodwork and just screaming that things have to change.
It's just a fucking nerd who needs to go
And when
back.
people's masks are ripped off, that's another indicator of that.
I think it's everybody spurgs
When they're
out.
pulled
I'm
off.
spurging out right now. I'm gonna spurg out later.
I'm spurging out too.
On Chris Lynch. And also, Indians do cool stuff.
Also, rest in peace, David Lynch. Must have been related to Chris Lynch in some way. He was a real one. He's a true soul. Rest in peace, David Lynch.
Indian clubs, shoulder rehab, exercise, fantastic. The hate, it's irrational hate. It's just racism. It's just a nonsensical racism. The hate and racism and anti-Indian sentiment, it's there to the extent that Indians are being used to replace white people.
I do have to agree with this. I think no matter what the mantle that's covering this is, no matter what the political or philosophical or socioeconomic justification is, there is a need in America for more workers, and particularly in the tech industry. And just to go off on a brief tangent, Musk could be doing this as a favor to a friend. Like, oh, I need some Indians. Can you get in bed with Trump and then, hopefully metaphorically, get in bed, and get this H-1B thing going. It could just be a favor among rich people. I made that point in my last video, but I spoke too much about it. That's the point. It could just be Elon Musk's doing a favor for a rich friend or a group of rich friends. Whatever. That happens all the time. It's the socioeconomic conditions in the States and the demographic concerns are not in play. It's just, do me a favor. Okay, I'll do it. That's it. It's like the Gin and Piss sketch that Sam and Charles did, which is one of my favorite sketches they did, where Sam comes in and he's like, I made a deal with these guys, the Russians. It's that type shit. I made a deal to move money around. I made a deal to get workers into the States who will work for cheaper. They'll work for a third of what a U.S. citizen will work for. That's a valid point. I agree with that. I think that is happening. The point that no one brings up, in fact, there's 2 points. I'll be very quick. The first point is the U.S. national debt is like 38 trillion or 36 trillion. That's unimaginably insane. You're in debt for more money than there is in existence, almost. That's like you're in the pits of hell right now. That's unimaginable, that amount of debt. If anybody thinks, whether it's Trump or his group or his advisors or any individual person or any group in the States, if you think you're going to worm your way out of that debt, this is like the Treaty of Versailles times 1,000,000. Literally. It's fucking insane. That level of debt is, it's a guillotine hanging above your fucking head, and the blade is coming down. It's serious shit. That's one factor that I think pervades all of this. All this performativity, all of what's going on in the US right now, it has to do with the amount of debt they've accrued. And secondly, it's the fact that the US has such a phobia of taxation because their entire existence is predicated upon escaping unfair taxation, which can happen, yes. King George wanted money for some wars, and you disagreed, so you broke off from the European monarchy. Great, good for you. Maybe King George needed that money. Maybe the wars weren't pointless. Maybe they would have actually benefited the country economically if the taxes had come through. But you said no. You made a decision to break off and become a rogue hive of bees or wasps. And your entire basis for your society is like a curse you've placed on yourselves that demonizes taxation to an unfair degree, because the basis of your founding was in an era, it occurred during an era of unfair taxation. It doesn't even matter if it was unfair or not. The fact that that's the basis for your society means that anybody who understands ladder climbing and grifting is going to gravitate to your society like a swarm and is going to set up shop there because they know they're not going to be taxed. So you're attracting grifters to your society by forming it upon the basis of avoiding taxation. Taxation is not inherently good, but it's not inherently evil. Unfortunately, it's subjective. It depends upon the culture and the time period and the economic and land soil-based system that it takes place in. And if you don't take all of these things into consideration, you are willfully excising factors that are contributing to your current state of affairs, your current crisis. If you can't think about multiple causes for current effects, you are fucked because you're missing the forest for the fucking trees. You know, if Sam cares about the American people in the way that he wants Musk to care about them, here's what he should be saying: tax the billionaires more. Tax the billionaires more. You know what? We should tax the billionaires more. And you know what? Separate point, another thing. We should tax the billionaires more. Sam and Bernie Sanders are more similar to each other than Sam is to fucking David Duke or any of these right-wing moguls. If again, look at the most successful white societies on this planet right now. They're Scandinavian societies that tax the shit out of themselves. And you know what? They have the bankers by the balls. Iceland, during the 2008 crisis, criticized its bankers and kicked them the fuck out. Why do you think that is? It's because those societies understand that socialism is not the same as communism, and that taxation is not inherently evil. Thinking that taxation is inherently evil is the same thing as thinking no taxes are inherently evil. It's just two fucking extremes. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Extreme 1 or extreme 2. Take your pick. I'd rather fucking die than pick between two extremes. It's insane. And even if the two extreme system is some kind of meta meme or way of filtering people or culling people, I don't give a shit. It's bullshit in any context. It is a flawed and failed system. Go watch my other fucking video if you want me to rant more about that. Let's get back to things.
That's it. We have to stop playing pretend. We're not talking about exceptional Indians here. And that's why this is sort of spreading like wild.
And again, this is all surface level shit. He's ingratiating his base. I get it.
You are not in Calcutta scouting.
He's made his point already.
Indian Einstein. You're not. We have to make it to outer space and invent new computers. Let's get to India and get the next Nikola Tesla.
Like, of course, he's exposing the grift. Duh. Like, that's the way that the H-1B stuff is being sold to the public.
And then we'll go around all the gas stations in the
But
USA.
the real reason for it, there's not even a real reason for it. It's just money. And Sam points this out later. It's like he's trying to convince himself. It's like, yeah, dude, it's all about money. Duh.
Genius. Well, what if he's not in India? What if he's working at a gas station in North Carolina? He might be there. We don't know. Why don't we bring everybody here and then we can look for everybody? That's actually a fucking genius idea. We bring fucking everybody here and then, like a needle in a haystack, we find the one man who can invent electrical computer. That sounds fucking retarded and it's not true. You have to at least say that the H-1B program is being scammed.
It is. He's right about this.
Then as far as like any
It's
type
being
of
used
discussion
to do something. But I think it's just it's a favor between elites. That's all it is. There's no socio-engineering conspiracy. It's just a random favor. I want some workers. Elon, can you make it happen? Sure, I can make it happen. I'm from South Africa.
that he approved. Okay, nobody's expecting you to go full Steve Bannon here. You're a tech bro.
That's all it is.
We get it. Immigrant. But if you are on Team America, and by Team America, I don't mean Ben Shapiro's collection of ideas.
America is a collection of ideas. This is another point I got to remake in this video, man. The idea, like, freedom is an idea. The right to own a gun is an idea. Self-determination, autonomy, freedom from taxation, those are all ideas. If America isn't a collection of ideas, that means you're saying that those ideas aren't as important as the DNA of the people inhabiting the country. That's just not true. You can integrate German, Irish, European, South American, Canadian fucking immigrants, French immigrants. If they can all come to America and actually flourish and create innovative products and make ideas real, which is the beautiful thing about America, is it's not the American dream, it's turning a dream into reality. That's the real American dream. That's fucking incredible. Tesla was like Serbian or some shit. He was Eastern European. I don't fucking know. He was not American, okay? He or his parents came to America in whatever case, and they produced a person who invented fucking electricity, or at least refined it to the point where it became categorizable as an invention. The allure of America is a system of ideas that is able to take disaffected, creative people from other societies that are overly repressive and stymie and stifle and rape those people's brains to an extent that they find unendurable. A person who's creative and can't create and make a living off of their creative impulses comes to America. America is a collection of ideas. Absolutely it is. It might not be a collection of Ben Shapiro's ideas. In fact, I don't think it is. I agree that America is not one person's definition. It's almost like there's a document, a founding document, that is a set of ideas or ideals called the Constitution. That's what defines America. If Ben Shapiro was operating his little podcast according to the exact ideals and ideas of the Constitution, that would be one thing. Sam is trying to argue that he's not. That's how I interpret what he's saying. But you can't interpret America as anything that is more based on one race than a set of ideas. It is always and always will be, for as long as it survives, and it's the same of every society. It's the same thing with China, same thing with Russia, same thing with Australia, same thing with Europe, same thing with Africa. Every society is a founding set of ideas that are imposed upon the people that occupy it, regardless of their race. Race matters, it does, but it's not more important than ideas. That's what I disagree with what Sam is saying here. If he's implying that race is more important than founding ideas, I don't think that's true. And again, he talks about how you can't just randomly import people and erase their brains and their memories and convert them into Americans. Obviously, you can't do that. Obviously, that's not possible. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. But it's almost like you're oversimplifying that, because if somebody comes to America and they have shitty un-American ideas that they refuse to shed, the American system will shit them out. They will be unsuccessful economically, and they will be either forced to go back to their country, or they'll become destitute, or they'll become imprisoned. Again, all those mechanisms of filtering out bad Americans are produced by the set of ideas that constitutes America. Like, those ideas of filtering people are American ideas. Anyway, let's go back to the video.
Of ideas. America is a people. Americans. If you are Team America, then the most prominent talking points need to be the immediate deportation of illegals,
I do think people who are illegally in the States probably shouldn't be there.
of the abuse of the American worker,
Even if they have children to hold up as shields, they're
the gamification.
it doesn't matter. You broke the law. If I went to Sweden illegally, and faked my identity as a legal Swedish citizen from Canada to Sweden, and then I had a child, I should be deported from Sweden for trying to illegally enter Sweden. Same thing with China, same thing with Russia, same thing with Australia. If I did that, if I pulled that grift, I shouldn't be there then. The same thing should apply to any country. If there's no laws in a country, then it's not going to be successful. That's the truth. I agree with that. It's not a politically sensitive thing to agree with, but I agree with it.
Or us. Nobody wants to solve the Japanese birth rate problem by turning Japan into India. That's preposterous. That only would work in a computer simulation where you can just change the code and make a Japanese person. I've tried it. It can't be done. In my laboratory, okay, where Asmongold is right now, down in the basement, I have tried over 150 times to turn an Indian into a Japanese man. And the only thing I was able to accomplish was boiling them. Right? If you or Asmongold, if you're watching this, if you think you can turn an Indian person into a Japanese person by boiling them, not going to happen, okay? Go down to my basement and talk to the 150 Indians that I already tried that on. Doesn't work. Nobody wants to solve the American birth rate problem. What's going to happen? We're going to run out of people. Oh, the stock prices are going to go down. Oh, that's a problem for the All In podcast.
This is another problem. The problem is not stock prices. That's a problem that the elites are obsessed with, and they are obsessed with it more than they should be because they're missing the forest for the trees. The problem is the demographics. The problem is that we don't have enough 20 to 40-year-olds in Canada, the US, Europe, China, or Japan, to say the least. There's other countries where that applies. We have a rapidly aging population, and we don't have enough replacement level young people to support that aging population. Sam made this joke in his Paradigm 2070 video where he said, we're just going to start killing old people. Canada's already starting to do it. Or put measures in place that slowly edge us towards suicide booths from Futurama. That's the future. The problem is demographics, not economics, because demographics dictate economics. If you don't have enough young workers to support an industrialized system, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your economic policies are if there's no base of people for those policies to interact with. That's the real issue. That's the real problem. The real problem is a lack of workers, and that's why immigration is happening rapidly in Europe, and it's trying to be pushed in the States. It's why the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden group was pushing it. It might not have been that they were trying to destroy the States from within. It might have been that they were trying to save it. But now there's somebody else in office. Who the fuck knows what he's going to do? I don't know. I don't care. I live in Canada. You know, whatever. If we get taken over, if we get converted, I'll just have to adapt. I'll have to morph. I'll have to change like a Shoggoth or an alien. I'll have to just mutate to adapt to that. Then I'll do it. My point is that what Sam's pointing out here, and I'm not going to accuse him of just trying to ingratiate his base. He's not trying to do that. He believes what he's saying. I believe he believes it. I respect him for believing it. But the problem is demographic. It's not economic. It's not about stock prices. It's about numbers of people. If there are not enough working people in a society, whether it's the States or China or Russia or wherever, then that society is going to collapse, regardless of how obsessed the elites are with stocks or how unobsessed they are. That's irrelevant. The relevant thing is demographics, and you can't rapidly produce children enough to solve this problem. Even if you could clone people like fucking Blade Runner, if you could make replicants, that wouldn't solve the problem. It's not fast enough. And the problem is the left-wing idea of systematizing society relies on pure computation that reduces humans to interchangeable economic units. And it doesn't do it in order to rape and destroy their humanity or their souls. It's trying to save them. The fucked up thing is, every person who's ideologically tied to any sort of attempt to systematize human culture is actually trying to save it. These people are idealistic. Yes, there are psychopaths at the top. Yes, I think Elon Musk is just a money-making guy. I think he's performing to make more money, or he's been indoctrinated into a group that just wants to jack off to each other's financial portfolios. I do think that that's the case. Call me a cynic, call me demoralized, call me whatever you want. But Sam's point here is wrong. He's talking too much about the obsession with stock prices and not enough about demographics. And again, there's not one demographic that's better or worse than the other. It's going to come down to, if it even comes down to this, which it won't, because it's too late. But let's say it could be saved. It's going to come down to whoever has the most kids, man. It's going to be the Mormons. And I mentioned this in my reaction to this that I deleted. The Mormons aren't even at replacement level, but they're the closest to it. You know, projections are by the year like 2100. Look this up. The Mormons are going to, because they're having the most kids, it doesn't matter that they're doing it with creepy religious PDF file type of stuff, potentially, allegedly. It doesn't matter that it doesn't matter how they're doing it. If every couple of one man and one woman is having more than 5 kids, or most of them are, guess who's going to replace the lost workers in 20 years? If immigration is halted, if the economy grinds to a halt, and the States actually doubles down on homeland birth rate type of replacement as a strategy, the Mormons are going to mog all of you. You will all be forced to become Mormon. Maybe that means they're right. I don't know. But that's where you're headed in the States. If you really want to rely on homeland birth rates as opposed to immigration, the Mormons are going to colonize you from within. I hope you enjoy Mormonism. I hope you can deal with whatever the cultic religious strictures of that system are, because that's, if any group is going to save you, it's going to be the fucking Mormons. I'm not a Mormon. I don't support Mormonism, but that's what's happening. Again, let's go back to the video.
David Sachs. Sachs of what? Sachs of gold? Just start calling yourself David Sachs of gold. What's the other guy? Jason Sachs?
Start calling yourself... Well, I was going to say Dr. Sam Hyde. I mean, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Start calling yourself Mr. Hyde. Who's the Dr. Jekyll that's Sam's alt? Who's that? I wonder who it is. Maybe it's me. Maybe Sam's my alt. Who knows?
I think it's good. I never watched him. I just know his name's Asmongold. The only people who want to fix the American birth rate problem by turning America into India are fuckers. People are not interchangeable economic units.
Again, I agree with that. I don't think people should be looked at as economic units. It is an extension of antinatalism, and it is a devaluing of human life, of human existence. Absolutely it is.
That's why we're here. It's understandable why a computer guy, why an engineer...
I do think we're here because the universe cares. I do think we exist because we were supposed to exist. You know, whatever force brought us into being, whether it's Cthulhu or God or the Demiurge or Sophia or whoever, we're here because we're here. You know, it's whatever, yo. I am that I am. It is what it is. That's true.
While it would be useful in a simulation or in an economic theorem, it strips them of their humanity. And by the way, it's one of the first steps towards any authoritarian dictatorship type system. It's one of the first steps towards Marxism, is thinking of people as just.
And I agree with all of this. I do think that it's a step towards tyranny, but I think that tyranny is the last gasp It's the last desperate attempt of any society to maintain itself when it is inevitably already about to collapse. The point is that the society is not salvageable as it is. And dictatorship is one of the cope rearrangements or revolutions of the system to try to fix itself at the last minute. When the jesters start becoming serious, when there's 3 times as many old people as young people, or whatever the number is, when there is desperate vacuuming up of new workers from anywhere at any cost, when there is $36 trillion or $38 trillion of debt, those are all bad fucking signs, man. They're just bad. And it doesn't, on a certain level, I gotta get a bit cynical here. It doesn't really matter what you do. You're just fucked. And again, it's not just the West that's going through this. China's been borrowing more from the World Bank than the West has for the past couple years. Japan is fucked. Europe is fucked. Africa's always been fucked. Rest in peace, Africans. I don't know, maybe Australia's the one paradise that's left. Maybe they came up with a perfect fusion of totalitarian and democratic ideas, and maybe maybe Australians will go to Mars. Maybe it'll be Australia that goes to Mars. Right, mate, I'm stepping on down to down off the lander here, and this looks a lot like the desert. Looks lot like Australia. We're meant to inherit this planet. I think Olympus Mons will be the next Ayers Rock. I'll be offering tours up there to see the blue sunrise from Olympus Mons. We're going to get kangaroos down here. We're going to get dingoes and all sorts of things. We're going to get grasses that eat bugs. We're going to get all sorts of creepy things here. Spiders that rot your hand off when they bite you. It's going to be the new flora of Mars. Because it turns out Earth was kind of fucked. And Australia was the only place that survived. How about that?
It's a very gross, anti-human thing to think, just to appeal to the Redditor in you. That's middle brain shit. Stupid people at the bottom of the spectrum know that everybody is special. Everybody's special! Everybody's different and has their own thing. Retards know this. Geniuses understand that everybody is a unique product.
Sam, I'll give you I have to disagree with you here. Stupid people know everybody's special. I agree with that. 110 IQ Redditors, they think people can be systematized endlessly and turned into nodes on a giant motherboard. I agree with that. Geniuses don't give a fuck about people. You know what they care about? Ideas, man. They care about ideas. They care about meta systems that reorganize people. But they're not idealistic about it in the same way that Redditors are. Redditors think that the systems are infallible and that you can place people beneath a system. What a genius thinks is that there are systems and there are people, and there is always an interwoven relationship between the people and the system that they're in. The system is dependent on the people, and the people are dependent on the system. Geniuses are not looking to control everybody or let everybody run around and do whatever they want. They're looking for different potential ways to structure or restructure the game of reality that makes it better for the most number of players. All geniuses have some type of democratic inclination. They all understand that people are flawed, ape-brained beings that require a system, and they also understand that systems are not infallible. The 110 IQ take that you're pointing out is the take that Redditors have, and it's a take that goes, well, systems are perfect. It's people that are imperfect. That's what you're trying to say here. That's the midbrain take. The galaxy brain take is, well, systems are also imperfect because they're conceived of by people. And so the system has to adapt to its people in the same way that the people have to adapt to the system. It's a back and forth relationship. It's not a binary of right and wrong, left and right, up and down, blue and red, black and white, red fish, blue fish. It's a intertwining, it's an interweaving of two different threads of cotton in a fucking garment that a woman is knitting. It's an intertwining of system and participant, of game and player. That's the big brain take on things. That's where I have to disagree with you.
By and for their zeitgeist, or zeitgeist if you want to go with the more
And zeitgeists are like weather. They come and go. You don't want to base a system on a zeitgeist, ever.
time and
It's a bad idea.
has their place.
They're temporary. They're like weather.
The smart people know this, the stupid people know this. There's people in the middle with 110 IQ, which is the worst IQ to have, who think that people can just be pushed around and moved around and changed. They can't. No hate towards Hispanics, okay? But that's why the room that I'm sitting in is covered in dust. The general contractor I hired to use Hispanic labor, I didn't know, they laid down masonry cement. When I said I wanted polished concrete floors, masonry cement, you can't polish it. They left board marks and footprints in it. And I had to pay another crew of black people, okay, shout out to Greg, to come in here with jackhammers and get this shit dumpstered out of here. I went and hired my own blacks. I went in the ghetto and hired them by hand. That's how you need to hire blacks for SpaceX. And what you get is you get lower quality construction. You get lower wages for the blue collar workers who are here and fighting. You realize that people are fucking up against the wall fighting to make ends meet? Do you understand that the American people are on the ropes right now? Your people and not the world, okay? It's the American people. That's where this shit is popping off. That's where you came to do business. The American people are your problem now, to the extent that you want people to pay attention to your opinion. And by people, I mean actual people. Not Patrick Bet-David, not Ian Miles Chong, Scott Adams, not these fucking f***its that'll walk around sucking your ass because you have money and because you made an electric car. But to the extent that you want that, you have to protect the American people. You're all about being pro-natalism and increasing the birth rate. Why is the average dude gonna want to have kids when he can barely afford to live by himself and eat Domino's? Hey, why isn't China importing Infinity Indians right now? If it's such a huge economic advantage, why isn't China doing it? We need to do a naval blockade of China to make sure they don't get any of the...
Sorry, guys, I had to get some carbs into me. So Sam makes a couple of points here. He talks about Elon Musk and the celebrity thing. I've already touched on that. Of course, Sam, or rather, of course, Elon is doing favors for his buddies. You know, that goes without saying. I think the H-1B thing was it's kind of been overblown. I think it's probably just a favor being done by Elon to somebody else, where it involves him. Whatever, doesn't matter. You like this ASMR? Thank you to the Mexicans who made those chips I'm eating. They're very good. For real. They're good. But, you know, Sam's trying to appeal to Elon's emotions. Elon, I don't think at this point is actually driven by emotion. He's driven by performing in a way that allows him to maintain his economic status and advantage. And I don't know anything about Musk being pro-birth rate. I've not heard, I haven't seen those tweets. Again, I'm not addicted to politics. I don't follow this stuff very often, but you know, the underlying ideas are always the same. Any era of human history, any culture, they're always the same. If you've been in this game more than once, you'll know what I mean. And yeah, of course, the average guy can't afford to live on their own, let alone have kids. Duh. That's why most people aren't having kids. No shit. And again, Sam talks about China here. He talks about, why isn't China importing Indians? China's fighting a war with India, first of all. I don't know if you know about the border skirmishes going on. It's because 80% of China's groundwater is unusable for any human means because they've spent so much time trying to rapidly catch up with the West, meaning Canada, the States, and Europe, at least, that they have raped their own environment to such a degree that it's not about global warming and ice caps melting, it's about groundwater and air. Water and air are the actual problems environmentally. If we don't have water and air that we can drink and breathe, we're fucked. The global temperature is going up mostly because of solar flares, and greenhouse gases are probably accelerating that trend, as are volcanic eruptions. But the real issues that are harder to solve, which is why they're not being given media attention, because it's cheaper to fake solving global temperature with wind farm and solar scams than it is to address water and air quality. Water and air are hard to fix. It's hard to create better filtration plants and to clean up the air. That's more difficult than it is to pretend that you're lowering the global temperature. Even though if you look at a graph for the past million years, we're at one of the lowest points for global temperature ever. Air and water are not cheap to fix. That's why you're not hearing about water quality and air quality. It has nothing to do with temperature. It has everything to do with corporate money. And the problem with China and India is that China needs the source of the Ganges, or they think they do. Up in the mountains above India is the source of the shit smear that is the Ganges. And China is so desperate for usable groundwater because its people are dying that it wants to fight India over groundwater. And the importation of Indians to the States probably has something more to do with that than it does with replacing white people. It probably has more to do with the conflict between China and India and how the States is involved in that conflict. If I had to look at things from a global historical kind of lens, I would be asking those types of questions. I would be asking, again, I don't know if this is true, this is just a theory, a game theory. I'd be asking, what is the relationship between China and India, number one? Number two, the United States importing a bunch of Indians, are they trying to save them before China takes over fucking India and Africa, where China is already taking over a lot of the places that Dutch and European, French and German colonies once had sort of hegemonic mastery over. Maybe the real reason for Indians being imported into the States might have something to do with rescuing or giving asylum to Indian people before China straight up fucking invades India. Because they're going to have to do that. If they don't invade Taiwan, if we prevent China from invading Taiwan, they're going to have to do something. Just like the West and Europe, they are facing a population collapse. They are going to have to externalize that internal turmoil by projecting that social vitriol outward. They are going to have to invade somewhere. Is it going to be Eastern Russia? Probably not, because Eastern Russia is mostly a wasteland, and all it has is oil, and Putin's already giving China a bunch of oil. It's probably going to be India because they have fucking water. So I wonder why the US is taking on a bunch of Indian immigrants. I don't think that's an explanation that covers the whole trend. I don't want to suggest that that solves the trend. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that might be a factor. It's worth looking into it. I don't know if it's true. It's not even my opinion. It's my speculation. It's a factor that should be considered, really, is what I'm saying.
Genius to get one over on us. That's the biggest threat this country's facing, right? I think we need to go nuclear. I think we need to say, if China imports enough Indians, it's like diamonds. It's like nanotechnology. Indians are like nanotechnology. We have to be willing to use nuclear weapons to keep China from getting these precious Indians. That's step one. Sounds retarded, right?
They don't care about the Indians, they care about the source of water. Look at life like a game of civilization. You'll understand what I'm saying. It is. That's what it is.
China in what sense? GDP? Making a number go up? Having software companies that are valued more highly? Competing with China in what?
And again, the idea of looking at life as a game, the reason I was hesitant to even post a video espousing that is that I thought people would interpret my video about life being a game, which you should watch and like and subscribe. I worried people would interpret it as me advocating for like dehumanizing psychopathic practices. The reason that that idea might have merit is that it actually has the potential to go beyond number go up. Redditor midbrain level of competition. Oh, my number's higher than yours, therefore I win. No, it's how happy the players are in the game. If life is a game, it's a fucking MMO. And if people aren't happy with the experience of playing the game, which includes both logical, puzzle solving, and emotional grappling with an illogical thing, or a series of illogical impulses, then player retention is what matters. That's number one. If players are unaliving themselves or switching servers, aka switching cultures, or they're just giving up and rotting, letting themselves rot via entertainment, then you have lost player retention. Not enough people are playing the fucking game. And if that becomes the norm, your game will fail and it will be replaced by another game. So Sam's right in this point that he makes about it's not just about stock prices. It has to be about indexes of happiness, which ironically, again, are computational. They are systematizable. You can measure people's happiness if you offer them the right surveys, and if you survey them correctly, you can understand how well they actually integrate into a society, or how well they feel that their society is benefiting them. Can they have kids? Do they have opportunities? These are metrics that computation and the systematization of society can actually serve society by enacting. Computation and systematization can be used for good, but if they're not used for good, they're just used to maximize profits. I think that's what Sam's trying to say here. Again, I'm not criticizing him for saying it the wrong way. This is just how I would say it. In the same, if I was trying to make the same point, this is how I would say it.
What sense? And at what cost? If the cost is making America look
And he's right again. If the human cost is too high for the stock price, it shouldn't be done. It can't be done. Because the stocks will disappear because there'll be no companies left to hold them. It won't just be America that collapses. It'll be China and Russia and Australia and Europe and Africa. Everything's going to collapse at once now because we're all like this. We're all intertwined.
boneheads who are mystified by drones in the first place.
Know what I mean?
Look at this aerial drone display. It's a ballet of killer drones. How can we compete with that? That's what drones do. They move around in coordinate space.
I love the point he makes about drones here.
It's the low-hanging fruit.
It's true. Drones are not impressive, man. Quantum computers, as much of a meme as they might be, are way more impressive than drones. Regular computers are more impressive.
kick their spies out and tell them to fuck off?
I think we should. I think we should kick their spies out and tell them to fuck off. If they want intel, they gotta give us something in return.
Is it the CCP, Chinese Communist Party?
You
Why are
know?
they sending these hot spies to fuck with
Unless we're gathering intel on a one-to-one basis, which is never the case. And this reminds me of a brief tangent. There was a time in European history when ambassadors didn't exist. And around I want to say it was the 1300s. I might be wrong about that. Might be inaccurate. Sue me. There was a point in European history when ambassadors were invented. And the first ambassadors, if I'm remembering things right from my history classes years ago, the first ambassadors were, they were from the Ottoman Empire. And there came a point in Europe when people got so tired of constant warfare that they were like, if we just allow a little bit of information to leak between us, then country B won't misinterpret country A's movement of country A's military near its borders because they're trying to attack country C. And so there was like a necessity that was agreed upon among different, you might call them states, like the US. It's almost like Europe provided the US with the model for a union of states that are governed by different families, philosophies, political systems. The US is a mutation of Europe, is what I'm arguing. I think that's true. US states and Canadian provinces too are like European states. They're similar. They're not the same, but they're similar. My point is, at some point in Europe, everybody got so goddamn tired of war, even the elites that profited off it were like, this is getting old. Can we just voluntarily like share information a little bit? Might that be a better model where we can at least avoid unnecessary wars? There's going to be necessary wars. We're not going to delete warfare. That's not going to go away. We're not all going to become poets. But we can at least diminish wars down to the necessary ones. That's where the idea of ambassadors came about. And Sam talking about like Chinese spies in the States, it's like, if the embassy is not enough and spies have to be introduced, I don't think that's a good thing. I think the embassies should be enough, ideally. But that's an ideal. That's an idea. It doesn't play out the same in reality. And again, the idea of ambassadors did not delete warfare from the game of reality. It just diminished it, which is better than nothing. The existence of spies might indicate that the idea of an ambassador and an embassy, those positions and those things, that's not sufficient. We may have to replace it with something else. I don't know. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Regardless, spies operate outside of the system of embassies and ambassadors. They are augmenting that system because there is a perception that system is not sufficient in terms of information sharing to allow countries to avoid unnecessary warfare. It's a lot like illegal immigration in terms of the broad meta sort of concept of it. If legal immigration is not sufficient to sustain a base of workers, then illegal immigration will be used to try to maintain that system. It might be that the Kamala Biden people wanted a bunch of voters. I'm not going to discount that conspiracy theory. I don't think it's true. I don't think it's false either. Call me a fence sitter. Oh, I've got a fence post up my ass. Whoa! Maybe I do. I don't care. My point is that I don't know. But the issue of ambassadors versus spies is similar to the issue of legal immigration versus illegal. If there's a need for information exchange that supersedes the need to maintain an older model, then the new model will take over the old one by force. There will be an importation of workers if there is a need for those workers in order to sustain the standard of living. Now, I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying these two issues seem similar to me. in my insane brain. It seems like if a system is failing, it will break its own rules to try to sustain itself. And that's the mark of a failing system, but it's also the mark of a culture that's failed to adhere to that system. And the blame is equally on the system and the culture that is under that system or within that system or intertwined with it. Again, it's not easy to assign blame to one thing. And that's the problem, is I can't make sexy arguments about, like, well, I know it's the fault of System A, not its constituents, or it's the fault of foreign System B. I can't make sexy arguments. All I can do is talk about how these things are related to each other. And more people need to talk about this shit, man. More people need to talk about this and not feel like they have to have a particular point. If we can't talk about ideas and weigh them against each other without having to come to some preconceived, pre-approved, popular, sexy conclusion, then we can't improve reality at all. We have to be able to have conversations that don't end in sexy, happy ending storybook argument ends. We have to be willing to have conversations that don't have an end point. They're just conversations. They're just discussions. They're just thinking about ideas in a way that is free, in a way that involves people who are not afraid to challenge the status quo, who are not afraid to be berated or humiliated by having weird, unfinished, half-formed ideas. Everybody's ideas are half-formed. Everybody's ideas are unfinished. If anybody tries to humiliate you because you don't have a perfect idea, they're a fucking idiot. They're humiliating themselves by telling you your idea isn't perfect. That's why I deleted my first reaction to Sam's video that I'm reacting to now. I was being a fucking idiot. I was trying to criticize Sam like I had better ideas. I don't. But I respect him because he's trying to have a fucking discussion. And he's trying to have a discussion that's not limited by zeitgeist bullshit. He's trying to have a discussion about ideas. And I don't agree with everything that he's saying, but I agree with his motive to have the discussion in the first fucking place. This is what universities have shied away from, pussied out of, for monetary reasons. Universities in particular have been beholden to their corporate donors. They have modified, mutated, and constrained the speech of, in many cases, tenured professors, people who've devoted fucking 20 plus years to trying to educate people, and they have betrayed those people. They have betrayed those academics. They have raped them. They have gelded them, and it needs to stop. There doesn't have to be this culture of, like, you know, the Nazis burned books in Nazi Germany. If we're burning Nazi books, even if we think they're still horrible, that's the same impulse. It's the same impetus to censorship. It's the same limitation of thought. It's the same limitation of dialogue. It can't happen. We can't do it again. If we do, we're fucked. Let's go back to the video.
China, I'm waiting, okay? I have 300,000 YouTube subscribers, or 250,000 probably. 200,000? How much on Hyde Wars? If you have over 100,000 Twitter followers, you should demand that a hot Chinese spy sucks your dick. Okay? You take video. Whatever. Why is that? Am I not popular enough to get this fucking mingling? Get Bing Bing over here?
They don't have the spy that could satisfy me, man. Doesn't exist.
That's my price, China. Send them over. Do we need to build giant cities that nobody lives in to compete? Do we need to turn our country into a surveillance state? Fucking nightmare.
No, I don't think we do. And I agree with Sam on this. I think there are. Again, it's like China, and I'm not belittling the Chinese mind or even the philosophy of that culture. It's a different philosophy. It might be better, it might be worse. I don't know. But the building of these ghost cities, which is what Western journalists have called them, is a byproduct of China trying to venerate and trying to catch up to Britain and the West. And in a way, it's, you know what? It's China saying, we love the ideas you have. We love the ideas that constitute the West. Not Ben Shapiro's ideas, but they are ideas. When someone copies you, imitation is the highest form of flattery. Look at what China's doing. They're copying the West. They're sucking our dicks. And what, we're going to refuse to come? We're going to withhold our come? Come on. The building of these cities that people aren't moving to is a byproduct of Chinese culture trying to venerate and essentially ass worship the West. They're licking our ass. They're sucking our dick. And what, we're going to turn around and go, oh, you didn't do it right. Fuck you. Like, again, I'm not simping for China, but that's what they're doing. Any culture that restructures itself fundamentally to copy another one is worshipping the culture it's copying. That's a form of like religious or pseudo-religious worship. What Sam is arguing here is that the states shouldn't copy its worshippers' worshipping of itself. I agree with that. You know, the states shouldn't be building empty cities and forcing farmers to move to them, or polluting 80% of its groundwater. Duh, it shouldn't be doing those things. But you can't ignore the fact that the originating trend, rather, is China trying to copy the West, because the West blew its ass out. The Boxer Rebellion, the British with China, all the opium shit. Look it up yourself. The British really are fucking evil, man. They are evil fucks. They're impressively evil. On the D&D 9 morality category, they are like lawful evil to the fucking moon. They're lawful evil to a fucking degree that Satan would blush at. But anyway, if the Western system, and that's the Western Roman system, wants to perpetuate itself as a way of spreading language and of elevating humanity, then it can't shit on its imitators by treating them like aliens or slaves or inferior people. If somebody is imitating you, imagine if you're playing basketball, you're playing skippy ball, and a 2-year-old picks up a basketball and tries to shoot the basket. This is massively racist. My God, I'm already ruining my career by making this. I'm not saying China's stupid or childlike. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just making an analogy. Here's a better one. If you go to a foreign country and you don't know their language right, here's a better example. You're a 30-year-old guy. You're in a Japanese ramen establishment. There's a 30-year-old waiter. You're trying to speak Japanese to them to be respectful, and you fumble and you fuck up your words. That's a better metaphor. That's the real one. And the waiter is like, I'm not going to serve you. You didn't pronounce my language right. You're a fucking gaijin, go back foreigner, Western pig, disgusting. Then you never want to go to Japan again, and they're deprived of a few tourism dollars. The same thing is true of societies. It doesn't matter if it's China, Russia, India, Africa, whatever. If they're trying to emulate the West, they're basically worshipping the West, or they're trying to. And you're acting like fucking Cain from the Bible by saying, well, you're acting like God, rather, saying, well, you're Cain and your offering's not good enough. You're not imitating me enough. I'm so awesome that your imitation of me displeases me. I am not a generous God. I'm a dick. Fuck you. Like, again, I'm not trying to disprove Sam's point. What I'm trying to do is add some context and some nuance to it. That's really what I like to do when I criticize something. I don't like to just disagree with points. I find that boring. What I like to do is say, I disagree with this because it lacks context or nuance, and here's how this point could be made better. Here's how this point could be more correct than it wants to be. That's what makes me hard. That's what makes me interested in doing criticism, is trying to improve upon things that have been said, not to try to shit on them without any kind of suggestions for improvement. And even if my suggestions are wrong, even if I'm insane, I don't care. But I'd rather make those suggestions than not make them. So again, I agree with Sam here when he's saying the West should not imitate China's veneration of Western economics, because they didn't change their political party, but they changed their economic policy. China is not a communist society. It's communist in name only. It's a command economy. It's more fascist, in fact, than the States is. Because fascism united industry with politics in a way that China has done. It has united its economic interests and its economic groups and industry and producers with its communist economic policy, but it's also left a lot of aspects of the broader society to be more self-determined, as long as they don't fuck with the government's ideas. As long as they pretend to perform, like my video on performance talks about, it doesn't matter. Even if it's a performance of performance, even if it's just all, second order fakery, as long as the government doesn't feel threatened, it doesn't care. In the States, it's very different. The States, again, they're paranoid about taxes and they're paranoid about their own people. It's because their own people have power and they deserve to be paranoid about them. If every, I'll say one more thing. There was a famous incident where there was a Chinese diplomat or military official, somebody who at some point was contemplating attacking America as a war game scenario. Not literally. It was like, well, what if we at some point had to attack America? And somebody responded to his hypothetical scenario and said, there would be a gun behind every blade of grass. I love that. Beautiful little poetic metaphor there. But that's my point, is the U.S. has reason to fear its people, and that's part of its founding ideas, part of the set of ideas, not the set of people or genetics. It's not only Anglo-Saxons, or only Anglo-Saxons from certain family names, or only people who are less than half Irish and at least 60% German. It's not any of this crap. It's anyone who is receptive to the ideas enough that they obey the law. Those are American citizens. I think that's what Sam's getting at here. I think he's influenced by his base, and I'm okay with that. I don't want to criticize him for it. That's true of any YouTuber. When Sam criticized iDubbbz for pointing out post-irony, he said this. He said, iDubbbz has 8 million followers. Of course he has to say that. I have 0 followers. Sam has 250,000. Of course Sam has to say what he's saying, because he has that many followers. Okay?
To compete, do we need to essentially have slave labor to compete? What type of competition are you talking about? And at what cost?
I agree with this. We shouldn't resort to slavery. That would be a regressive thing. That would take us back in time. That'd be bad. If our society fails because we refuse slavery, then it should fail. I'd rather it fails than see slavery reinstated. That's a nightmare. No one wants that. Even the elites don't want it, because their own opportunities and quality of life would fall if they reinstate slavery. It would be slow, but it would fall. They would lose more than they would gain. And this is another thing, too. Magazines fear-mongering about China, that's been a thing for fucking 40 years.
The American worker, you have to take less pay and accept more bullshit because there's a big boogeyman looming on the horizon. It's China for 30 years. Before that, it was Japan. It's constant. It's to keep wages suppressed.
I agree with this.
Elon
It's to shut
sells
you up.
government and
Yeah, it's
misleads
propaganda.
people for a false
I agree with
narrative.
this.
Either we have to have more legal immigration, or you, the person disagreeing with it, you want America to fail for your own personal gain. What personal gain are you talking about? You want America to fail for your own personal gain. What is Elon? What are you talking about? How does anybody personally gain from this? The only gain happening is in stock prices of tech companies. That's the gain.
The
That's
only
the
gain
gain.
is in the people that you have refused to tax for 250 years. It's the same base of people that have accrued such an unimaginable amount of wealth that they can influence politics to maintain that wealth. Russia is like the future of America. When you look at Russia, it has the largest wealth disparity, and I know this is statistically true. You can look this up. You can dab on me with statistics. Russia has the largest wealth disparity of any country on earth. Russia is like it's something that proves, and I hate to admit this, but it proves one point that Marx made, which is when a capitalist society reaches the latest stages of its bloated corpse decay, wealth inequality becomes ridiculous. In Russia, that's the case right now. They have the most billionaires in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, at least proportional to their GDP. I don't remember the exact statistic, but my main point is that the wealth inequality percentage wise is greatest in Russia. And the States is very close to that. They're very close to falling into that same hole. They're falling into the well from the movie The Ring. They're putting Sauron's ring on their dick and then jacking off with it. And the government debt is a displacement of wealth that has moved into the echelons of the United States elite when it should have been redistributed, not forcefully, but through legal means, through taxation that responds to the proportional generation of wealth and acts as a mitigator for the ultra rich or the elites or whoever the fuck you want to call them, whatever you want to call them, when they're keeping more money than they could use in 100 lifetimes, when they're keeping more money than their great grandchildren will ever need. What is the point of that? What is the point? If your great grandchildren can eat caviar and drink Hennessy for their whole lives, and you have another 400 billion on top of that, what the fuck's the point of holding on to it? There's no point. It serves no purpose. Not for your family as the billionaire, not for society. It serves no fucking purpose, man. Don't, if you keep clinging to this anxiety disorder about taxation, your society will be perma-fucked into the dust. It will be the DeLorean of Earth. It's not just Elon Musk that will suffer, it's the whole fucking society that will suffer. Again, let's go back to the video.
That's where the gain is. Cui bono. That's who stands to benefit from this arrangement. This tweet, it's not first principles thinking. It's not in good faith dialogue. This is a dishonest mischaracterization. Nobody's calling you a liar. People say things in the heat of the moment that are dishonest, though. This is a
I think
dishonest
Elon's guilty of that. He banned Asmongold. He removed his blue check mark, then brought it back, then removed it. He's making impulsive decisions because he's busy. He's thinking about other things. I have sympathy for him for that, man. Anybody does that. I do it all the fucking time.
hammer down, and I know that you are going to be tempted to do so, that you already have with the Groypers, which, by the way, you have to undo that, man. You blanket banned people, not for saying...
I do agree he has to unban these people he banned. That's bad form, man. Especially after Trump's already won the fucking election. Like, unban these people. What do you have to lose?
...of the trust that the people you wanted to like you placed in you when you said that you're for free speech. It's straight George W. Bush You're either with us or you're with the terrorists.
Yep.
That's what this is. You're either agreeing with me or you're fucking an enemy. You're an enemy. It's not an argument. It's not a well-reasoned position. It's just my way or the highway. Is that...
And people might say that Sam has this mentality. I don't think he does. I think he focuses on specific issues or ideas because he has an IQ well above 110. So he's more concerned with ideas than he is with people or emotion or politics, which is why I think he gets mad at people. He gets passionate about people who have specific ideas that are in direct opposition to his, which is a valid way of confronting opposing ideas. I mean, that's why I respect the guy.
what free speech is? Is that who you are? You can just be a celebrity. You can be like Ellen DeGeneres. You can be like The Rock. You can get Ozempic, you can get breast implants, start doing whatever you want for popularity. You can do that, of course. But to the extent that you have popularity, if you keep digging this hole, it will be misplaced, and it'll be there because you're rich. What does winning actually mean? Healthy, functioning societies, they need more than...
Winning is having happy people who are producing on an individual and a collective basis at the same time, and they're interacting with their system of society in a positive way. That's a good society.
Because there wasn't social cohesion.
Social cohesion. Perfect. That's the term.
Maybe they're enough to get at least...
If any society lacks social cohesion, it's about to collapse. If it has none of it, it will collapse.
to hold people together. And again, we're back to the idea of people as a collection of economic units. That's what at the foundation of Marxism.
That's the thing too with this video of Sam's, just really brief. I agree that people are not interchangeable economic units because they have varied potential. Even a computer could figure this out. Even an AI could figure out, well, people have different economic potential, so they can't be equivocated with one another on a one-to-one basis. Even a computer would figure that out. Even a soulless machine could figure that out. But societies are collections of ideas. Always. They're ideas of behavior, of performance, of behavior modification, of propaganda, of behavioral engineering. Every society has an aspect of social engineering to it, even if it's a shaman in a cave with 20 people. The shaman or the tribal leader, the alpha, whoever the fuck it is that's leading that culture or influencing it to the greatest degree relative to the other people who are at the top. Whoever the leader is, they are trying to impose a set of values that they believe will produce group benefits throughout the culture. And that is fundamentally a set of ideas, always.
And thus, the
Always.
justification for a lot of Marxism is also what leads Silicon Valley...
But it's not Ben Shapiro's ideas and it's not Marx's ideas. It's just ideas. It's Grug's ideas, Uk's ideas, the monolith's ideas, language's ideas, God's ideas, maybe.
Are not quantifiable. They're quantifiable in the sense that you can look back and you can say that they cost X amount of dollars. Or
I agree with this point too about monuments and their value as symbols and images. I agree with that. It's hard to quantify that. It might be possible, but it's difficult. I don't think you can actually do it.
Indians to 200 million and bring the American dream to fruition faster.
But there's an alarmism here. There's not going to be 200 million, Sam's joking, but there's not even going to be 100,000 Indians brought to the States. Even if there should be, that won't happen. Not under Trump. It's not going to happen.
More tech gadgets, more poorly run hotels, more work ethic. Okay, what we need is leaders willing to fight for the American people.
I agree with that.
Not for corporations, not for the idea of America, but for the American people. That is the...
And that includes everybody, man. That includes blacks, Hispanics. Sam's put his cards on the table. He's sort of admitted that he's gone a bit far with the racist play to placate his base, and he's said, look, if you're willing to work and you're willing to obey the law, then you're an American. Again, that's proof that America is a set of ideas that includes laws. It includes freedoms and also laws. Duh. That's every culture. It's every culture forever. Every human culture has always been that.
It's not a meritocracy. That's not some idealistic
And he's right that money is supplanting idealism. That's happening. That's been happening for decades now.
flourishes out
That's scary, man.
is sulfur.
Because money has its own idealism, which is just, I want to make more of myself. Money wants more money
Would be
at the expense of everything but itself.
interesting if
Because
China
money
makes
is just
the
an
Mars.
idea.
Would be great for humanity. Why don't we do it? Let's do it. China makes it to Mars before America.
China gets to a dead
Mars
rock
is
before
2
America.
economic units. Why wouldn't we want that? I think we do it. Sounds
Mars
good
is
to
such a
me.
waste of time,
How do
man.
you define
It's
winning?
just a dead rock. Who the fuck cares? Improve Earth, improve
I just
human
want
relations, and improve the water and air quality on Earth, and research Earth's oceans before you go gallivanting off to another planet.
I'll spit on his face.
That's my opinion.
Fucking guy. We love moist. We're in a we have a
Spit on my face, Sam. I love you, Daddy. Ooh.
moist is a Yiddish word. I didn't know moist critical is actually Jewish. Did you know that? Crazy fact. Winning is winning, making it so that tech companies have even higher valuations. Is that winning? It's the valuation of Netflix. I figured it out. That's why we're not winning, is because Netflix stock isn't high enough. That's the only way to win. I want to kill my neighbors and blow up my car. But it's okay. Because Netflix is $3 trillion. I want to cut my cock off and scramble my brain with fucking fluoride. I'm going to win because
Some of us need the fluoride, Sam. I couldn't be making this video if I wasn't on the fluoride.
I can't believe the dollars are this
I'd be rocking back and forth in an insane asylum if I didn't have the fluoride.
are this high.
But respect. Most people don't need it. It's too much. It's widespread. It's too much.
That's the most retarded thing I've ever heard. At least
Again, if you want to systematize things, if you want people like Elon Musk, who are obsessed with number go up, to act in the interests of your people, you have to put a carrot on a stick for these psycho freaks, and the carrot is things like a happiness index, which again are going to have to be based on left-wing, bleeding heart, bundle of sticks type of thinking in order to conceive the survey in the first place, because those people are emotionally more attuned and more empathetic to a fault to the broader population enough to come up with the survey that can then be fed into the giant computer that nerds worship, the quantum computer, the series of algorithms, whatever you want to call it. You have to have people who are willing to go into the trenches of emotion in service to a way of systematizing human flourishing that is not entirely fucking anti-human and robotic. You have to have people who are emotional but willing to go into the trenches of the system and give up some fragment of their soul to contributing something to trying to save people who would otherwise be discarded or disaffected or destroyed by an anti-human mechanizing IBM typewriter Jew badge type of system. You have to have people who are unapologetic in their ability to be empathetic, but also to confront a system that lacks empathy and rape empathy into it in order to save people. And that's a rare fucking breed, man. It's a rare type of person who's willing or able to do that, or both. And again, people coming up with surveys that gauge happiness, which is like an impossible thing. It's such an idyllic thing. It's insane to try to be like, well, rate your happiness on a scale of 1 to 10. But at least trying to do that tells the system that there's a better way of evaluating the productivity and the general efficacy of a population, that what's worth keeping them alive. It's an alternative system to just, well, they didn't produce enough, so they're dead. They didn't produce enough, so they're sterilized. They're going to the camps. A better version of that system is, Well, if they're happy, they produce more. You know, let's prove that point. Let's also say, here's a survey to gauge happiness, which is tied to productivity. And people aren't happy when they're forced into concrete nightmare hives. They're not happy when they can't have children. They're not happy when they can't pay their basic bills and meet their basic needs while working 50 hours a week. If that's the truth, then let's put that truth into the system instead of just criticizing the system for being a system. It's a lot like criticizing a population for being irrational or for being human. That's what the system does. It says, well, these people are illogical animals. I can't possibly corral them without treating them like cattle. There's a better way forward, and it's not a way that relies on extremes. It's not a way that relies on judging every aspect of life according to some extreme viewpoint. That's just not going to work, man. It's never worked in the past. It will never work in the future.
Vaccine brain is. I said people. At least people whose blood has been replaced with vaccines and are so far on the left they salute Mickey Mouse. They think that they're helping people. If winning is just drones doing an aerial display while a robot jerks me off to sample my DNA, then everything is lost. I killed a homeless person today, Chris. It was free speech. I said,
Sam's going American Psycho, guys. Holy shit.
And then I used a speech gun to shoot a speech bullet through his speech. NFL cheerleading team. The guys, too. I used free speech on them. Do they have male cheerleaders in the NFL? National Flag League. Look it up, please. Does the NFL have male cheerleaders? That is awesome. That's true. A third of the league. America is the greatest country on earth.
Man, I gotta be a dick for a second. Sam, buddy, guy, friend. You're a male cheerleader for your sheep, for your viewers. You're cheerleading right now in the Trotsky face. You're wearing, it's not blackface, it's Trotsky face. You're appropriating Russian culture right now. Very serious. The globalists are going to come after you for that.
Here's your male cheerleaders. Everybody working at D'Angelo's, everybody working at the mall, they're all retards. Everybody who's had their lives destroyed by Big Pharma, by the grist mill of...
And again, I'm not going to comment on vaccines, guys. I'm not going to get into it. But Big Pharma in the States, the worst thing they've done is they've jacked up prices for basic medication. That alone should be enough to motivate you to oppose that industry, because insulin costs like 40 times more in the States than it does in other countries. That's fucked up. Irrespective of any issues about the fucking COVID thing. I don't know enough about that. I have no fucking idea. Me personally, I took 20 vaccines. I actually thought that 20 was the magic number. It's the number on the D&D dice, so I thought if I can get to 20, then I'll be immune, because any dice rolls in the future, any disease dice rolls will pale in comparison, because I already got a natural 20 or an unnatural 20. I got 20 vaccines. I'm fucking protected. That's my view on that. But Big Pharma should not be attacked because of this meme, fake, surface level issue about the COVID vaccine. The real crime is the inflation of drug prices. It's the same way that billionaires and crazy rich elites in the States just need to be taxed more, and the States is addicted to its anxiety about taxation. It thinks that taxation is inherently evil. It thinks that every system that increases taxes or imposes taxes is inherently evil. That's a psychotic, retarded... It's not even a Reddit brain thing. It's like an 85 IQ thing. It's like a Forrest Gump level thing. Well, if the taxes are high, that means that people are oppressed by being taxed. Obviously, if your government is inefficient and misuses the tax funds, that's one thing. But if you have an efficient government, and if your people have fucking guns and can intimidate your government into being more efficient, you would think that your government would have been long ago intimidated into utilizing tax funds for purposes that benefit the people who have the guns. That's the ideal. That's the idea of America. That's not Ben Shapiro's or Karl Marx's idea. It's not Leon Trotsky's idea. It's my idea. It's mine. I claim copyright over that idea. Quick! Copyright that idea. I'm talking to my editor. He's off screen right now. He's sitting on a couch smoking weed.
Inflation and taxation. Everybody that's been betrayed by their leadership in this country, are they all retards? Is everybody who's got, this is a lot of people, who has $400 in their bank account and is getting hit with overdraft fees and has the landlord from hell, are they all retards? You work at a sub sandwich shop. You couldn't invent PayPal. If you really believe that these people are all retards, then you have no place in the discourse going on about the future.
I believe this, and I believe Sam's right. I don't think Elon Musk actually gives a shit about anybody who's poorer than him. And again, call me jaded, call me cynical, call me nihilistic for that. But I think the safest and most logical assumption to make, if we're going to set aside emotion here and try to actually benefit people who don't have a voice and people who are fucked financially, you can't waste time ingratiating billionaires with your projection of how you would behave if you were in their position, which probably isn't true. And again, I'm being a dick. I'm armchair psychoanalyzing Sam. I don't deserve to do that. I have no right to do that. But I'm reacting to what he's saying in this video, which is he's being very generous to Elon. There's a part of me that wants to be generous to the guy, wants to characterize him as a person who might be at least, if not a Nikola Tesla, he might at least be Tesla's rival, whoever the fuck it was, the industrial rival of Tesla, whatever the fuck his name was. You know what? I'm glad I forgot his name. He doesn't deserve to be remembered. Tesla was the real one. I don't care if that's a Reddit take. Tesla had some fucking crazy ideas that Donald Trump's relative, who was an MIT graduate, had access to. He had access to Tesla's documents. That's a real thing. You can look that up. So anyway, Tesla clearly had the ear of the demons. He was clearly trying to extract some knowledge from them, and they withered him and killed him before he could pass that knowledge around. But again, you know, you can't just give in to your hope. Hope is necessary, emotion is necessary, humanity is necessary. I'm not diminishing those things, but I think Sam in this video in general, he gives Elon too much credit. Maybe in order to potentially associate himself with him. That's very cynical. I don't want to mischaracterize Sam's intentions here. I'm not accusing him of that, but it pops into my head as a potential reason why Sam would be ingratiating Elon with this interpretation that his actions are, or potentially even could be, pro-American in whatever way that Sam defines that. I don't think that's true. I think Elon is permanently indoctrinated. He has been ushered into an echelon of financial opulence that is beyond the pale of morality. It is not a place that you can climb out of. It's not a level of hell that you can claw your way out of. That's just not what it is. You can't even suggest, I don't think, personally, I don't think you can suggest even that Elon is even potentially benevolent. And that may sound overly paranoid, that may sound schizo, that may sound jaded, cynical, nihilistic, whatever. I don't care how it sounds to you. That's my opinion. And I'm not knocking Sam. I'm not blaming him for expressing his opinion. I'm just saying that's my opinion in contrast to the same information. Like, when I look at how Elon Musk is behaving and how he has behaved, according to what I've seen of his behavior, that's the conclusion I draw.
You are just a computer guy. And I don't think you really believe that. I hope to God that you don't. But if that's really what you believe, and you're not a leader, I could say fuck you. I could say take a step back and fuck your own face. But I'll say this. If you really believe that the American people are retards, which they are, we got male cheerleaders in the NFL, but if you really do not have in your heart grace and respect for the Homer Simpson,
He doesn't.
economy shit.
You want him to, Sam, and I want him to too. I would love it if he had that, but you know what? You have it. You should be in his place. You want my opinion? Sam should take Elon's place. He'd do a better job. Maybe that's the point. Maybe Sam's trying to claw his way up there. If so, I hope he succeeds, because... I love how he owns the Freudian slip. Good for you, man. I make Freudian slips all the time. Everybody does. Good for you for owning it. That's cool. I respect that. Not that my respect matters, but I respect it anyway. I bought Magic during the pandemic. My God, the cards I bought in like 2020, they're literally 4 times the value now. I gotta talk to Asmongold. He has business acumen. I gotta ask him, hey, what should I invest in? He plays PoE. I play PoE. Could there be a connection? Maybe.
This country's never been weaker, and it's never been more open to foreigners who aren't us. These two things, they're not unrelated. They're directly related. Would Ben Shapiro say the same thing about Israel? Israel's just a collection of ideas.
Again, this point, I commentated on it. I commented on it. Commentate is a fucking pretentious word. I commented on this same point in my last version of this reaction video, where I said that, look, you can criticize Ben Shapiro's characterization of America, and I think that that's valid. I think that he doesn't have a monopoly on defining America. He shouldn't. No person should. Sam shouldn't. No individual person should have a monopoly on defining America. The Constitution already does that. That's the founding document. That's the set of ideas that its founders deliberated over exhaustively, hopefully, and said, well, here's our best thoughts for this country. Ben Shapiro should not have a monopoly on redefining that or interpreting that. But every country is a collection of ideas, and that's part of the problem, is if the ideas are wrong, it doesn't matter how good the people are. And if the people are wrong, it doesn't matter how good the idea is. It's true both ways. You can't make soup if your broth is sewage and your meat is filet mignon, or if your meat is rotten and your broth is the greatest broth ever produced. If one of the two elements is shitty, the combination of the two will be shitty. It takes both halves. And again, this goes back to my video on dualism, which, again, these systems are based on dualism, so they produce dualistic interpretations of themselves. When you're trying to criticize these types of systems, these human systems, you're confined to dualism because the system itself is confined to dualism. That's why I find it so fucking exhausting and boring, is it's played out. Watch my video on dualism and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into it again here. But anyway, let's go back to the video.
India is just a collection of ideas, really good ideas. That's why they're doing so good. Groped women on the
And it's not that they're good ideas or bad, it's just that they're ideas.
make a lot of jokes about
There's no moral judgment
I
here,
had an Indian woman
but
come to
every
me the other day.
civilization is a collection of
She
ideas.
thought she was going to chew me out and beat my ass, ear beating Indian style for the jokes that I made. She said to me, "Thank you for saying that. I went there with my 13-year-old sister, and they pulled her pants down on the train."
That's
Is that
fucked.
an Indian idea? When we bring them over, does that idea suddenly vanish and they get the neural net download of American ideas? Is that how it works? The people who are mad at you right now don't view America as a collection of ideas. It's not.
I disagree with that. I think the people who are mad at Elon do view America as a collection of ideas. They view it as a collection of ideas that Elon's behavior and the ideas that he's espousing contradict. And that's why they disagree with him. The smartest people among the people who are angry at Elon are the ones whose opinions in some way, shape, or form contradict Elon's ideas about how to interpret America. Your base, if you're Elon, a portion of it is mad at you because you, in their minds or in their eyes, you have misinterpreted the ideas of America, or you are mischaracterizing America, or you are emphasizing certain ideas while ignoring others, and that's the real basis for criticism and for bad reactions to sort of new vanguards of American ideas, is you're not preserving the founding ideas or ideals of the country. Instead, you're imposing new ones, or you're mischaracterizing the ideas in the first place, or you're overemphasizing one idea or one set of ideas at the expense of another set. That's the real reason for criticism.
Economic zone. I hate how this is argument against Americans asking them what they built. You're so great. What did you build? What did you build? Nothing significant that gets built gets built on an individualistic scale. The greatest things that humans have built.
Again, I pointed this out in my last video. I'm going to make a brief point about it here. I'm going to try to be more brief. Sam talks about individuals don't incarnate ideas. It's collectives. That's true. But it potentially, when you say that, it seems to contradict the individualist ideal that is part of the founding of America, where an individual is supposed to be the arbiter of their ideas. I think what Sam's saying here, and again, I'm making like a 3-hour video here. He's making a 1-hour one. He's got editors. I don't have any editors. My point is just that I think what he's trying to say is that, well, there's individuals who have ideas, and then they gather people around them to incarnate those ideas. I agree with that. I think that's true, obviously. But the way he summarizes it in this makes me react instinctively by saying, well, you can't just oversimplify things into individuals and collectives, because an individual person with an idea obviously needs a collective. But there are rare cases where, especially in America, an individual with a single idea has been able to patent that idea and promote it, and get it to a point where the rest of the populace has access to it, whether it's an invention or whatever it is. And again, they needed other people to do that, but the impetus of the idea was channeled through an individual mind from the divine, or from the machine elves, or from whoever the fuck. In a lot of cases, the primary vessel of an idea is an individual person. And in the same vein, on the opposing side, or in the opposing viewpoint, there are cases when a group came up with an idea because different people in that group conceived of different parts of a greater whole. So again, I don't want to accuse Sam of oversimplifying things. I just think that the way that this video portrays this point could be misinterpreted as that, and that's why I have to talk about it. Because if I was an idiot, I'm very good at pretending to be an idiot. I have a certain talent for that. Just like I'm good at pretending to be smart. I think that people will misinterpret this idea, like I did the first time I watched this. and say like, well, Sam's contradicting himself because America's individualist. That's what I thought the first time I did a commentary on this, and I was wrong. I mischaracterized Sam again. But anyway, let's go back to the video.
Cathedrals, which, if you disagree,
And cathedrals are beautiful. I don't know if they're the pinnacle of human achievement, but they're goddamn impressive. You know.
those cathedrals are built over hundreds of years. They are built not just by the army of stone masons who build them, but by the towns
Yeah.
who pay for it. They are the cream sitting on top of the cake. The cake
I agree with all of this, by the way. This is good. This take is solid.
customers
It's true.
who pay for this shit by putting their retirement accounts in Vanguard mutual funds. They're the people who you owe a debt to.
This is another point Sam makes that I love, is he goes, anybody who's rich, you owe a debt to your constituents for supporting your vast, grand dreams. And that debt, if there's no taxation, it's difficult to pay it. And that's again why I have to continually reiterate my criticism of the states, is it's like, well, the debt that the rich owe their poor, or the vampires owe their thralls, if you have a system of lawful, reasonable taxation, and you have a government that utilizes the tax money in a reasonable, lawful way, which does exist and can exist, then you have a sense of accountability that counterbalances the impulse of the wealthy to accrue a million times more what they need for even their grandchildren to be wealthy. You have a system that takes into account economic savants and people whose impulse, whose driving force for living is to just accumulate more, make number go up, make Netflix stock $4 trillion. If you have a system that accounts for that personality type, like I talked about in my system, my Enneagram system point in my video about dualism, right? If your system accounts for the presence of a certain type of player, then your system can not only give that player a better experience in their playthrough, but that system can also benefit every other player at the same time by taking into account all the interconnected strengths and weaknesses of the 9 different types of players of that game of reality. I think there's real potential there, and it sounds nerdy, it sounds Reddit, it sounds cringe. I don't care. That's my opinion. But Sam makes a very good point where he says, look, a multi-generational project, whether it's a computer or a rocket or a cathedral, all these things require a shared sense of purpose and will that is very difficult to not only foment or create in the first place, it's even more difficult to maintain it. And in the past, religion was what did that. And maybe we need to go back to that. Maybe that's still the best thing. I don't know. But it's clear that economic motives aren't sufficient to maintain that consistent level of intergenerational contribution to a singular project, or it's very, very rare that that pure economics can do that. Anyway, let's go back to things.
Like that for being able to do the stuff. These H-1B tech workers that are coming in, so many of them are just managing apps that other people built. They're maintaining code bases for stuff that was built years ago. What are they making? Social media apps that collect all your data. They're making to-do apps, dating apps. Who fucking cares, man? What did they build? Mobile phone games? It's just stuff that feeds more into consumerism. It's not actually making life better for anybody. The sentiment that Americans aren't good enough, that's one of the darker things that has happened here. I know that Vivek Ramaswamy does believe it to be the case, and for him, this Twitter bomb was a mask-off moment in a way that I hope it wasn't for you. But that sentiment and the Twitter deboosting, algorithm change, blanket ban, all that stuff, those are the darker things in the sense of not good for humanity, not good for the future. Running Twitter the same way your enemies did before you bought it. Is that what you wanted when you bought this thing? Is that the...
Again, I don't think Elon Musk thought about it either way. I don't think he thought, oh, I'm going to be a free speech guy, or I'm going to be just as censorious as my predecessor. I don't think he thought about it at all. He just thought, well, I should do this because some deep instinctual part of me is telling me that I have the capability to own this platform, and me owning it will elevate me socially and economically. I think that's the unspoken, almost inarticulable instinct that he was operating on, and I think he just went with it. In the same way that Sam has gone with his instincts about how to advance his comedic and artistic career. I think it was just an impulse that Elon went with. I don't think he has an opinion either way. I don't think he's indifferent, but I do think that he cares to the extent that he is required to care or perform caring. And again, call me cynical and jaded and whatever. That's my opinion. If Sam's interrogating Elon to try to see if he has a soul, the answer is no. Maybe he had at one point, but it's fucking gone, man. It's dissolved. It's dissipated. And again, I think Sam is giving Elon the benefit of the doubt based on like emotional outbursts or an emotional reaction, which is a legitimate, sympathetic point. I think anybody can make a stupid decision when they're feeling emotional. I've done it a bunch of times. Everybody does that. Sure. But in Elon's case, it's hard for me to agree with that. It's hard for me to think that he just made an emotional mistake when he is so calculated about grabbing on to power and money and keeping a hold of it. I think his desire to do that would probably supersede any emotional outburst or any potential at an emotional outburst. I think such a person is so driven by the ladder climbing impulse of success and of monetary gain that I doubt that he would have a mask off moment, as Sam puts it, with respect to to Twitter. In any case, whether it's banning people or unbanning people, it doesn't matter. Whatever the move is, I have a hard time believing that. Maybe I'm wrong.
That's a pretty big betrayal of the role that you have stepped in to fill, whether or not it's even true. Okay, I couldn't work at SpaceX. I don't have a delusion about that. It doesn't matter because you are in charge of American companies. You are an American leader. So what matters is that that's the sentiment people are walking away with after your tweet storm. It's not helped by these Patrick Bet David wolf in sheep's clothing cocksucker podcaster guys who are just up your ass because they have money. The extent to which you deserve to be a king, more importantly, or equally importantly, how posterity will look upon your works is directly related to your attitude.
It's interesting Sam chooses these words. He says, how posterity will look upon your works. Reminds me of the poem Ozymandias by Shelley, where he goes, look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. And Sam is saying, well, your works could endure. They could contradict that poem. Or they could succumb to the sands of history.
Your benevolence towards the American people. The Cybertruck's cool, but if America crumbles, it's because we've taken on too many outsiders who don't
Again,
believe in
America's not going to crumble because you've taken on too many outsiders. It's going to crumble because of completely unrelated factors that have caused the country to desperately want to take on tons of outsiders indiscriminately. It's the it's a band-aid versus the wound. The wound is we don't have enough workers and we can't breed fast enough. Even if we all become Mormon, we can't breed fast enough to keep up with maintaining this standard of living, which is a good standard of living. It's great. It's like heaven. It's amazing. I would love it if it would keep going. But if your only way of maintaining it is fighting 5 more wars and importing, 100 million people from various countries, then that's just something you're going to have to deal with. If you don't like the standard of living, and we're all in the same boat. Canada, Europe, China, Japan, Australia, we're all in the same fucking boat. We're all facing the same dilemma right now. America is not unique. When people talk about American exceptionalism, this is what they're talking about in part, is that America thinks it's the only country facing this type of disaster. It's not. That's not to diminish the suffering of Americans, but it needs to be contextualized because they're not the only fucking people on the planet facing this. It's multiple countries at once. In fact, America may be feeling the brunt of this because America is the sort of central node, the center of multiple other countries that are experiencing the same types of economic problems, the same types of demographic issues. And immigration is fundamentally, mathematically, systematically the quickest way to solve that problem. Just bring more people here who are already of working age. I agree with Sam that they shouldn't be brought to America as indentured slaves whose H-1B visa dictates that they have to work for less money and be beholden to a corporation rather than the government as their sort of benefactor. That's not ethical. I don't agree with that. I agree with Sam's points. What I don't agree with is the conception that there's some magical third or fourth solution to this problem. At this point in history, the solutions are pretty fucking narrow. And as much as any of us would like to imagine that there are better solutions, there might not be. Unless we can make robots or clones at a ridiculous rate, which has a myriad of its own problems. Either of those strategies are fucking terrifying and potentially worse than just letting in some immigrants. Even if they're better, how do we know that? We won't know it till we try it. And again, other countries are in the same boat. Canada's in the same boat. Europe, China and Japan, they're all in the same boat. And these ideas deserve to be criticized, but they don't deserve to be decried as the worst possible option. They deserve criticism, but they don't deserve to be backshelved as the sort of worse than last resort kind of move. They're just another option, and if they fail, then they fail. If we don't implement them and we do something else and that other strategy fails, then probably we're going to look and go, oh, I wish we had done the immigration thing. It's just this reality, man. It's just how things go.
give a shit about the country.
And again, I'm trying not to be nihilistic here, guys. I'm trying really fucking hard.
DeLorean.
It's difficult.
Do something interesting. People look back, oh, that was kind of cool. You know why they won't be driving it? Because they'll be driving a Neo, and China.
They won't be driving anything. There won't be any roads or gasoline. It'll be beyond Mad Max. People will be riding bicycles.
What an American is. It would be a
That's
lot
what'll
easier
happen.
if an American was just an Indian with an Ivy League degree. It would make this whole problem go away instantly if that worked. If you could just wave your
And again, if an Indian got an Ivy League degree, you would probably want that person in your country. Like, why would you not want that brain that had gone through the ringer of Western hegemonic knowledge gone through those paths, reforged the physical synapses of the brain, gone through all the humiliation rituals of tests and oral exams, why would you not want that person to live in your home country? If they live in another country, they're going to benefit another country rather than America. If you want the benefit of that person's indoctrination with American ideas to benefit America, it would benefit America if they lived in America. Not on an H-1B that's unfair. Not under some indentured servitude. I agree with that. But you got to be more specific, man. You got to be more nuanced. These people are not coming here like some boat of refugees. They are coming here because they're invited here. They are selected. There's a selection process going on. Look to Canada. Our selection process is pretty brutal. Most people that we allow to immigrate here, they have to have fucking master's degrees. Criticize that all you want. You know, oh, we're mimicking China with the state exams and people will kill themselves if they can't pass them. So what? People kill themselves for a lot less important reasons than that. It's not a good thing, but they do it. Yes, it's a lot of pressure. Yes, we're minimalizing our amount of immigrants. But you know what we're doing? There's a thing called quality over quantity that we're trying to engage in. And I get the sense that Sam and the people that follow him, and again, I'm one of those people. I'm wearing his fucking shirt right now, as if that means anything. But I am. I feel like Sam's constituents, his pay base, and the same pay base is interested in Joe Rogan and interested in anybody in the States that's right wing. They're worried about the undervaluing of their labor. They're worried about the undervaluing of their presence in their own home country. That's a legitimate worry. That's not something that should be diminished. That's a real thing. And they're worried about, in turn, immigration being utilized in a quantity over quality way, rather than quality over quantity. Yes, there's a lot of very intelligent people in other countries that could replace white workers in the States. But there's also positions in the States that no white worker could fill. There are CEO positions that, again, according to the judgments of these tech companies, which is in part what Sam is criticizing, he's saying these judgments are not sufficiently moral. They're not focusing on American workers. Again, I agree with that. But Elon Musk is not a generous nation or culture or race-based minded person. He is not thinking about elevating Americans who could do just as good a job as somebody from Calcutta who graduated at the top of a university where in a country of 800 million, which is more than twice the amount of people in the States, such a person was able to grind and ladder climb their way to the top. If such a person is more qualified, a monetary or meritocracy-minded person is going to pick the person who has stepped on the most heads beneath them and climbed the most ladders, whether it's a person who was born in America or India or Europe or China or Russia. They're going to take a person who has demonstrated a certain type of ruthlessness that a lot of American workers can't demonstrate. And Sam is trying to argue that people in the States, as a sort of exception, should not have to be that ruthless. I actually agree with that. I think that global, that whole idea that you should have to be so ruthless that you have to outcompete 799,990,999 people below you. The only people who can really do that are psychopaths. And their behavior when they reach that position is not going to be a behavior that is conducive to social cohesion in whatever culture they end up in. If China or Russia hired the same Indian guy, the same hypothetical person who managed to work his way to the top of that ladder, that person would be a sort of inhuman thing. I mean, they would have had to have become that to reach that point of elevation. To claw your way up past that many people, to sacrifice that much, whether it's time or energy or having a family and not having one, having kids, not having one, the amount of sacrifices that such a person has done to reach that level, it probably marks that person as a bit of a fucking demon, a bit of a creep. And this same thing's true of Americans who get to this point. It doesn't matter what your country of origin is. But Sam's point, I think, if I'm being generous to him, which I want to be, because I like the guy, his point is that this mentality of success at any cost is promoted by these huge corporate entities that don't have allegiances to any nation or any race or any people. And that's a bad thing, and I agree that it's a bad thing. I don't agree that nations should fight amongst each other and kill each other forever. I don't agree that nations shouldn't try to form a collective that benefits everybody, some sort of global society. I don't disagree with that idea. It's not inherently a bad idea. The problem is the means by which that idea is being promoted now are means that don't ingratiate or promote the idea or its success. They promote the success of the companies behind the promotion of that idea. And that's, I think, what Sam is saying here. With this whole fucking video, he's saying international corporations are just trying to shuffle people around. Again, like they're interchangeable economic units, like reality can be reduced to a computer. Even if reality is a computer, even if that's true, that's a shit way of shuffling around people, and it's not going to produce more energy or more power or more calculation potential from the motherboard of reality. It's not going to do that. It's just going to collapse the system. It's going to have to do, there's going to have to be a system reset. There's going to have to be a whole bunch of energy expended by God or the Demiurge or Sophia or the machine elves or whoever in order to reset the system again. Wouldn't it be better if you didn't have to do that and expend all that energy? Wouldn't it be better if we could just settle upon a system globally that is not abusive, or is minimally abusive, at least? I mean, that's idyllic, man. That's a fantasy, but that's why I like this video. I think Sam is touching on some of these points, and he's not articulating them. I'm injecting my own interpretations into the video, obviously, but these are the things that this video makes me think of. So, it is what it is. It's whatever, yo.
Hand and say that an American is a Guatemalan who was born here. That's an American. We wouldn't have to have this painful conversation. It would be so easy if you could do that, if it were a computer simulation. That's Marvel movie shit. An American is whoever Doctor Strange brings through the portal that the new Spider-Man is an American. It's a lesbian from Sri Lanka who just came here to start up a cupcake business. But she listens to Cold Wave. And she just came here to start up her hair dye business. She's an American. She's here for the American.
Again, this bothers me. If an American immigrant comes to America and they fail, and they end up on welfare, I can understand how the average American, and by average I mean an American-born American, would look at that person and go, they're a drain on the system. That's valid. That's legitimate. If a person comes here from another country, they're a first-generation immigrant, they fail in their business, they apply for welfare, and they just kind of sit on their ass. That's bad. In that particular specific hypothetical case, that's terrible. Obviously, that sucks ass. You'd want to kick that person out. But people who want to start their own businesses and want to come to America to do it, there's only two types of people. There's delusional people who think that America will give them free shit. And then there's people who know that American ideals require an immense amount of work and personal risk in order to set up a proverbial launch pad for whatever your business is. And again, with the birth rate declining, if your country is attractive to people who are into gambling, because your ethos is sort of dependent upon probability in gambling to some degree, upon dreaming, upon the chance of having a dream rather than some objective promise, which is, I think, more humane. It's more in alignment with nature. It's more in alignment with the random chance of reality. In that sense, it's more true because it accepts randomness, it accepts chance, it accepts probability. Then you're going to attract a wide variety of people. And again, Sam, going off on like Sri Lankan cake makers, it's like, if some bitch comes to the U.S. from Sri Lanka and can't make a living, then she can't make a living. If she's a drain on the system, then that sucks. But why would you want to reform or change your immigration policy to become more restrictive if there wasn't at least a chance? Because again, your whole society's based on chance, man. It's the roulette wheel of black and red, isn't it? The Nazi flag, black and red. Ooh. Why would you not want to have the maximum amount of potential successes land on your shores, even if 40% of them or 60% of them fail? The other ones that don't, according to the great man or great woman theory of history, will produce so many more jobs and so much more wealth that production of wealth, according to a free system or a free society, will offset the welfare leeches that fail. That's the American dream. The American dream is, if we invite enough people in, even if only 10% of them succeed, those 10%, because they're freer, will produce more value, and they will work harder and produce more jobs and more money than the bottom 90% that fuck up, or that go sort of halfway and they make ends meet and they're doing okay. That's the fantasy. That's the set of ideas. That's the Ben Shapiro set of ideas. But it's not Ben Shapiro. It's your fucking founding fathers, man. Read some fucking history. Open a book, nigga. That's the point of the society, is there is the potential for unique people to have a huge rippling effect on everybody around them. And that's why I personally think that America should keep going. Even if it fails, I don't care. I think it's such an interesting experiment. If you want me to, speak from the most cynical, sort of anti-human, robotic, reptilian, illithid, academic part of my brain, the American experiment is so interesting, it should just keep going just for the sake of itself. Even if it's failing, we should keep it going. It's too interesting. It's too entertaining. There's a South Park episode where there's a race of aliens that looks upon humanity and upon Earth as a giant reality show. I've always enjoyed that episode. I have a friend of mine too who cites that episode as one of the sort of formative pieces of media that sort of formed his opinion of reality. And I think there are far worse things to base your opinion of reality on than that. So if that's the case, again, I think America's too good a show to shut down. But it shouldn't be kept going in a way that is so abusive to its people that they just continually rebel and America just becomes a boring repetition of the French Revolution. Because again, America's not replicating like Germany in the 30s. It's France in the 1790s. That's what America is now. It's France in the 1790s. Anyway, let's try to finish this off. Back to the video.
Not reality. That's math, that's Marxism, that's computer programmer, simulation, bullshit. these
No, you don't.
paragraph long definitions and
I mean, an American is someone who
shift prop.
An American is not racially based. It's someone who obeys the ideas and ideals and laws of the country and perpetuates those laws amongst their fellow citizens and promotes them globally. If you want to really be specific about an American, it would be somebody who promotes American ideas, regardless of the color of their skin or the content of their character. Even if they're a piece of shit, if they agree with American laws and they promote American ideals, then that's the bare minimum. That's the whole point of a fucking society, Sam, is you obey a certain bare minimum of behavior, and when you obey that, it benefits the other citizens of that same society around you.
Propaganda. We know what an American is. If you're not here to help the American people, then your usefulness to us is over with. The right wing, Republicans, conservatives, etc., they are trolls and memers and shit posters, and they have acerbic ideas, and they're also the most forgiving people. They're the most forgiving people. Anytime anybody does anything remotely based, they are absorbed by the right and a Kasparian.
I mean, are they forgiving or have they been hypnotized by a series of memes? I don't know about that judgment, man. I can't agree with that. Maybe they're good people and they are more forgiving. I'd like to think they are, but the logical side of my brain, the non-emotional side of my brain, says, well, they're just obeying a series of memes, a series of frogs falling from the sky, Pepe's being beamed down by satellites, just like the plagues of Egypt. Frogs will fall from the sky. Well, Pepe images are being beamed down by satellites. Are there people who agree with those images really fundamentally forgiving? Are they really good people? I don't want to believe that they're not. I don't want to think that they're not. But I have to at least entertain the idea because I'm a self-preserving individual like you are, Sam, and like I hope most of your viewers are. You want to preserve yourselves in addition to those around you, your families and your friends foremost. After that, everybody in the broader society around you, surrounding you. But anybody who has a knee-jerk reaction to a meme is not the type of person that you want to be appealing to or to base your media presence on. I think that you should base your media presence on a type of person who is above the 110 IQ Reddit meme threshold, because an audience of intelligent people is going to give you a higher quality over quantity ratio of engagement, discussion, and monetary support than a huge base of sheep or thralls that have already been fleeced and co-opted by other people. I think it would be better if you focused on a smaller group that were higher quality. But I don't know, maybe that's eugenics, maybe that's Nazism. Ooh, maybe I'm totally wrong, guys. Guys, maybe I've been hypnotized. Maybe I'm off base. Maybe I'm the opposite of based. I'm off base. I'm sorry. Just ignore everything I just said. Just ignore it. Let's get back to the video, shall we?
Talking about not feeling safe in the neighborhood. That's based, man. Anna Kasparian was red pilled this whole time. I can't believe it. Damn. People, broadly speaking, do not expect you to be full-on 1950s racist Hank Hill, get him out guy. Get him out of here! That's not what they're looking for, okay? They're fine with the Silicon Valley tech version of the occasionally based, occasionally Neil deGrasse Tyson soy face. They love that Elon. It's this idea that Americans aren't good enough, this misunderstanding of what America is. You're just as bad as the people you bought the website from, if this continues to be the case. Are you able to listen to valid criticism? It's not from Russian bots. It's not a coordinated attack on you. It's tens of thousands of people pissed off because they think you betrayed them. I hope to God you're a leader. And the rest of you can keep watching this right now. Check it out. asmongold.com/ what's the guy's name? Moist Critical. That's the website. asmongold.com/moistcritical. You can now, if you're not Elon, you can jump over to the regular video and start watching. What I actually believe, I think that the U.S. economy is grinding to a halt, and that the tech bros and investors, it's like someone tweeted about this, the bubble in the Japanese economy, where Japan was faced with the decision to either start importing people or get ready for a long winter. I saw that tweet and that immediately rang true. I think that these investor bros are counting on AI to offset the loss in productivity of this dying empire. It's slowly being realized that AI is, for all intents and purposes, a glorified spell checker. I use AI all the time. I'm a pro subscriber to
Sorry guys, let's go back a few seconds here. I just had to take a piss.
Moist Critical. You can now tech version.
Okay.
Occasionally based, occasionally Neil deGrasse Tyson soy face. They love that Elon. It's this idea that Americans aren't good enough. This misunderstanding of what America is.
Again, it's not that Americans aren't good enough. It's that your system of taxation isn't good enough, you moron. You've been operating under the it's like a paranoid anxiety. It's a pathological anxiety about the utility of taxation. The American people have a pathological anxiety about the potential. I'll throw that word in there. I'll ingratiate your anxiety by saying, "Oh, it's potentially good." You have a pathological anxiety about the potential utility of taxation because your government was founded upon the principle that that your citizens shouldn't be taxed, and citizens is not a term that encompasses only the poorest people. It's supposed to encompass also the psychopathic, vampiric, hyper-obsessed, number go up, Netflix 3 trillion people. It's supposed to encompass them more so than the poor. Do you get it? It's supposed to force those people, and yes, it's by force, to not hoard all the wealth of a society to the point where it fucking collapses. That's the reason for taxation in an efficient society that has minimal bureaucracy and competent governance, is to extract wealth from people or to compel it, or my favorite metaphor, which is actually the truth, is that the government in a society that taxes its citizens sanely, it's a subscription service. You dumb fuck. The rich pay more for the subscription service because they get more from it. They get more government boons, they get tax breaks on what they do have to pay, they get, prime real estate, they get human trafficked things, whoever the fuck cares. In that scenario, the general populace benefits because the system is set up not to rape the poor or rape the wealthy, but to try to balance the scales, not financially, but based on personality traits. Based on the personality trait of a person who gains so much wealth in their lifetime that even their great-grandchildren won't need more than a tenth of what they've gained. Does that sound smart? Does that sound fair to anybody? It shouldn't. I'm not talking about, killing the Romanovs in Russia or like storming the Bastille in France. I'm talking about a system that logically, rationally, sanely, and gradually imposes limitations on people who they're literally insane. They're just insane in a particular way. Their obsession with making numbers go up, which is again something Sam criticizes in this video about the valuation of stocks and Netflix. What Sam is trying to criticize, and either he's not saying it or he doesn't know he's saying it, he's saying that the elites in the States are not sufficiently taxed. And taxation is not this evil, demonic, communist thing That's like if you were raped as a child, and I hate to use this metaphor, but imagine you were raped as a child and you thought that all sex was evil. That's what the States is as a culture. They think, and maybe it's true, in any case, they think they were raped by King fucking George by being taxed. And now they're like, taxation as an idea is fundamentally evil. So let's not tax anybody ever, or let's tax people so minusculely on such a minute scale that our whole system collapses and everybody just fucking dies, or goes poor and becomes a serf. If you were raped, it's not a healthy thing to look at sex as the villain. And to diminish or get rid of that. It's not a healthy mentality to have. Again, it's a brutal metaphor. It's a grisly metaphor. It's low-hanging fruit. I should have come up with a better metaphor. But that's what Sam is really saying in these videos. He's trying to say, I think he believes this subconsciously. I think he believes it on some level. Again, I'm not a psychoanalyst. I'm not a therapist. I'm not fucking dissecting the guy. He says what he says and he believes what he believes. Good man, go for it. Do whatever you want to do. It has nothing to do with me. This is just me reacting to it. But I think that the notion that taxation is automatically evil, it stems from the American founders' perspective of the king that was taxing them. I hope it was King George. I hope I didn't fuck that name up. I may have. But anyway, it stems from their perception of that abuse, which was an abuse, maybe, probably, I don't know. Again, maybe King George, maybe those wars were actually necessary and the money was actually needed, and the U.S. not providing that money was a bad thing. I don't know. I can't predict alternate timelines. I'm not fucking Doctor Strange. Fuck that. Let's say it was wrong. Let's say the U.S. was fundamentally abused and they retreated from that abuse. Good for them. That doesn't mean that system as a system is fundamentally flawed. It just means that you experienced a version of that system that didn't work. And the irony is the States always says that about communism. They say, well, it didn't work in these examples, so the whole system is flawed. I do agree with that when it comes to communism. I think communism is a fundamentally flawed system. But the irony is the States projecting that kind of anxiety about the quality of a system or the viability of a system onto their ideological opponents when they themselves have not confronted that. They have not sufficiently looked into fundamentally reformatting their system of taxation in order to not geld or rape or contain their billionaires, but just to force those people, and yes, it's force, of course it's force. Is it not force when a population that's armed goes against its government or goes against a taxing king? Of course it's force. Don't act like you're above using force. Don't lean on that fucking argument, man. Well, taxation is theft. Your whole country is based on that. You stole British colonies with force. It's almost like you're projecting that genetic memory, which is something Sam brings up. Genetic memory, I actually think that might be real. That's a very crystals and astrology type of thing, but I think it might be real. If it's real, though, I would have to say that the States is projecting onto other countries based upon its own awareness that it broke off from the monarchy using force. And so now the States is going, well, we have to maintain that rebellion through force. Again, I'm not even judging that. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe the States is the only hope for humanity. I don't know. I have no fucking idea. But from their point of view, they are. And again, I don't think Sam is trying to be a white nationalist or an American exceptionalist in these videos. I think he's channeling, fundamentally, because he's an artist, he's a creative person, he's intelligent, he's channeling the concerns of similarly minded people. And to put my cards on the table right now, if Sam wants to go into genetics, I'm a child of the Mayflower. I came here on the same alien ship that landed on the east coast of the States. My ancestors, I can directly trace my ancestry to the Mayflower. My direct paternal ancestor was the first infant who was born when the Mayflower was stationed in the harbor. And he survived. So I survived. So I'm not unsympathetic to the American cause. I'm not some Canuck commie. I'm not some agent. I don't believe in being an agent for anything. I believe in being yourself. I believe in being an individual. I do believe that. I swear to God, I believe that. That's why I'm making this video, because I hope that you'll listen to my criticism. I know I've been long-winded and I've gone off on a bunch of tangents, and I know I'm fucking nuts. I know I'm drinking water, by the way. This is water. This is filtered water. Calgary water. It's beautiful. It's Dasani. Again, I'm actually in Greenland right now. I'm based in Greenland, but I buy Dasani water, and it looks like this for some reason. It's kind of brown. I don't know why. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on.
If this continues to be the case, are you able to listen to valid criticism? It's not from Russian bots. It's not a coordinated attack on you. It's tens of
Again, man, I applaud Sam for his benevolence, man. He's being so generous to Elon.
God you do. And the rest of you can keep watching this right
I
now.
hope Elon's not what I think he is, which is just a profit-motivated drone. But
Moist Critical. That's the website, asmongold.com/moistcritical. You can now, if you're not Elon, you can jump over to the regular video and start watching.
good on you for the forced association, man. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to react to Asmongold's reaction to you after this.
And get the
See if I can get any views.
it's like someone tweeted about this, the Japanese bubble in the Japanese economy, where Japan was faced with a decision to either start importing people or get ready for a long winter. I saw that tweet and that immediately rang true. I think that
Again, Japan and Russia, I'll pause this briefly here. Japan and Russia are a lot like the future of the States. There's sort of two different versions of that future. One is the mafia government united control of money with a serf population, and then the Japanese version is kind of like there's a line from Pink Floyd where they go, hanging on in quiet desperation is the English way. That's the Japanese right now. They're hanging on in quiet desperation. Yeah.
on AI to offset the loss in productivity of this dying empire. It's slowly being realized that AI is, for all intents and purposes, a glorified spell checker.
I do think AI is overhyped. I don't think it's going to reach AGI levels it'll be several decades before it does.
Default search engine, and it's about as good as searching forum posts was.
It's good at searching. Here's the thing about AI. It's good at searching existing data, and it's good at recombining existing things into new things. There's an argument to be made in critical theory and language in humanities departments that's all that artists do, is they intake visual and other sensory information about reality, and they create artworks that mimic reality. Even if that's true, the human brain's algorithm, the human meat brain algorithm of recombining different images and sensory information into new constructs, that algorithm is unique and it will not be reverse engineered by AI or AGI for a very long time. It's too complex, it's too subjective, it's too specific to each human person, and that's why it's good, because it keeps itself. It's like a password that isn't being shared with everybody. You know, it's a crypto. It sort of enciphers itself, and that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. It is, though, because I think that the human brain should not be opened up so readily to a system that we have created that is based on very limited parameters of what art and aesthetics and thinking should be. That's not a very good idea. It's not a good idea to open your skull and dump your brain into the abyss. You might as well just cut your head off and have it fall into a porta potty. That would be the equivalent of giving AI everything that you think willingly. AI, if it's going to be the next form of existence on this plane or this planet, it needs to work for it. We're not, we shouldn't just be giving it everything right away. That would be very boring for AI,
It's not some revolutionary thing.
wouldn't it?
It's
Be almost like if God gave us God mode.
the words have
Be kind of boring.
rhythm and tone and various other dimensions that are vectors, and what you get at the end of it is an article that can almost fool a computer into thinking it was written by a human. I think there's a game of musical chairs going on with
Game
money,
of Thrones.
and people are
Game of
desperate
Tech Thrones. Yep,
to keep that
that's going on.
chairs going, even if
It's always been going on.
the idea that these tech guys want to bring in exceptional people is just not true. They're looking to hire basically slaves who can't leave their company without.
Again, I think some of that's true, but I think the 40,000 people, I think that was a favor. I think that was an individual thing. But it sets a precedent. I mean, that's potentially bad.
Actual work for the rest of the time.
I can't disagree with that.
Phone and showing the boss that they're working 80 hours a week, sitting in the office. They're not
I
actually.
do agree with Sam that people should not have to be slaves. We shouldn't have to work
Why should anybody have to
that much.
Why is this a race to
You know,
create slaves?
I'll bring up a brief point here. There's been studies about medieval peasants in Europe, and they actually didn't work that much. They worked hard physical labor. Their quality of life was poor. They had physical maladies that there were no cures for, but they worked fewer months out of the year than modern workers do. You can look this up. Peasants in medieval Europe, I think it was the middle or the high Middle Ages, they got several months off because the harvest wasn't occurring. And apart from paying whatever tribute to their vampire lords, they got to keep a lot of what they produced. And that system, in some ways, not in all ways, not overall, but in some ways, that system has some potential advantages over our current system. So this increase of work hours coupled with a decline in quality of life, microplastics, estrogen in the water, etc., all these types of things, because the billionaires in control of not even just the States, I'll say North America, they don't want to invest more money in better water filtration or programs that discourage or not even discourage, programs that potentially could support forms of birth control that don't piss estrogen into the water. I mean, that's something that if we're gods of AI, if we are the masters of the next genius artificial brain, why shouldn't we be able to solve those problems? Goes back to my point about Mars. Why the fuck are we obsessing about Mars when our planet is under the aegis of shit water quality and shit air quality? The Chinese have shit air quality. In the States and in China, we have bad water quality. Let's fix that first. Then we can build the Mars rockets. Okay? If we don't do that, I think we're just fucked. I don't think it matters how we do it. I just think if we don't do it, we're fucked.
Why is that a good thing? Why is that a humane thing? Why is that good for humanity? How is it possible, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're left or right, why is it a good thing to want slaves? They'll work 100 hours a week. They'll work in their sleep. They'll work 200 hours a week. They'll work infinity. They'll have no lives. That's not a good thing. If you want more hours out of somebody, you have to pay them more. It's just money. They'll
Yep.
do it for 20,000.
It's just money.
They're pretending like they're complimenting their diligence and their work ethic. What they're really saying is, we can hire them for free,
And this is a grift that Sam is exposing, and I respect him for this, man.
pay them.
It's not that they're harder working, it's that they'll work for less, and the quality of the work doesn't matter. It's that they'll work for less, regardless of what the hours are, what the quality is. They'll work for less. That's true.
Indians who are master gamers. Pull up the Cognizant article. This is a company that was found guilty of setting a pattern and practice of discrimination.
Thank fuck that there's some lawsuits against this, man. Thank fuck that there's some American institutions legally that are still pursuing these types of suits.
Like Thomas Sowell said, you have to judge things when they're
And Thomas Sowell, he's based, man. If you want to know someone who's based and red-pilled, Thomas Sowell's actually fantastic. He's better than Martin Luther King, in my opinion. He's got a brain in his head. He's a real one, man. He's real.
high-minded, beautiful, humanistic language.
And again, yeah, the language, the propaganda, that's universal. Every culture is using that against every other one.
Hire workers at a fraction of the cost of American.
It's vampire hypnosis. My thralls will be better than your thralls because I've hypnotized them better with better language.
This is not helped by a government oversight.
It's the blue and red binary again. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish.
It gets gained. That's how people work. They're
Let's break out of that.
looking to maximize.
Let's smash it. Smash not the glass ceiling or the patriarchy or the communism or capitalism. Smash the binary. Smash the binary. That's my credo.
Which is like $25 to a regular person.
Anyway.
Apple engaged in a pattern of citizenship status discrimination in recruitment positions. The claim that we can't find talented people here is nonsense. It's dishonest.
There's a lot of talented people who need jobs. There's a lot of people who spent a shit ton of money on education who are not going to get jobs.
Sorry for getting overly.
Even in Canada, where the education is like, I'll pause the video here. So I'm tired of talking over Sam. Even in Canada, where the tuition is like a tenth of what it is in the States, even here, where it's that low, where we've adopted the cosmopolitan, globalist, Chinese government exam mentality of brutalizing our citizens with the hardest test questions possible, even here, we have people who've passed, who have undergrad and master's degrees that are overvalued around the world, and still they can't get fucking jobs. What does that tell you about the States, where it's worse? Where, no offense, the quality of education is lower and the price is fucking 10 times higher. Does that sound like a sustainable system? If we were talking about the environment, would that be a sustainable intellectual environment? I don't fucking think so.
Today, I think you should buy Bitcoin. There's this tendency.
You also should buy Bitcoin, I agree with that.
Powerful people or people in a leadership position, you get emotional when their every worldview doesn't line up with yours. You know, Trump's not based enough, or Joe Rogan's.
And this is another one of Sam's points I really agree with, is that we have to stop mincing words. That's an expression, that's a linguistic expression, but it has a lot of value. I think we have to stop mincing words. We have to stop judging anyone, whether it's the person packing your groceries or the person writing legislation, we have to stop judging them on individual expressions or thoughts or parts of speech. And we have to start judging them upon how they act and upon how their speech correlates with their action. I think that is essential. And I think if we don't reform our societies in the West toward that kind of judgment, we are going to slip into the inferno.
To whatever. But these are the men who define our times, and I think it's important you allow them to be flawed people to some extent, but also to push back when they go nuts. But in this case,
Yeah, I mean, has there ever been a better model for global discussion? Allow people to be flawed, but push back on them when they seem nuts. That seems pretty reasonable to me. I think that could be applied to international relations. Why couldn't it be? Why is that not applicable? You know? Why do we have to be overly generous or overly censorious or overly... Really, it's denial in a lot of cases. Why do we have to... Why do we have to speak that way? It might be that war is more consistently averted by both sides being able to tell the truth than it is by both sides being able to present each other with clever lies, Machiavellian lies. Why can't we just tell the truth? Then we would know what we want collectively. Right away. There'd be no delay. There'd be no waiting. There'd be no conniving, no cunning. Ooh, I made you think I wanted this, but really I wanted this. What the fuck is the point of that other than to waste time? It wastes time, man. Wastes everybody's time. The rulers and the subjects, every country. It's just a waste of time. Why?
I think that, it's critically important. It's moist critically important. It's moist critical.
It's moist critically important, I agree.
You put it all on the line to become the free speech guy and to turn Twitter into the global discussion space of the world. And you don't accidentally become adored by people. He can't just say, "Oh, I was."
I have to disagree with Sam on this. These people do come into play accidentally. We perceive it as accidental, which might be what he's trying to say. But I think that these people have a certain willpower. They have a certain drive. They have a certain desire for occupying a certain economic echelon, and all those things combined, or even just one of those three things, is what elevates people to this level. And that's the problem with human society in general, is the person who's the most adept manipulator will be the person who rises to the highest position socially, because they're able to do so with money, or they're able to do so with celebrity. It's not accidental. It's a function. Again, Sam's the genetics, eugenics kind of guy, and I don't disagree with him with that. I don't agree with him either. I don't fucking know. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not gonna take sides on that fucking debate. Are you fucking kidding me? Go fuck yourself. I don't know. But if Sam's right, then he's contradicting himself here, because he's saying that Elon couldn't have possibly come to this position accidentally. Well, it depends on how you define accident, I guess, but accident, to me, refers to random chance. It refers to Darwinian evolution. It refers to the random construction of the DNA that made Elon Musk's brain function the way that it functions. So Elon Musk is a product of random chance. He's a guy who came to his position because not only was he genetically predisposed to behaving the way he did and does, but also he found himself in a moment where his living present-minded consciousness looked around and said, well, here's what I have to do, here's how I have to behave to advance my genetics, to expand or advance my genome beyond its longer term, slower paced designs. I have to, get hold of Twitter. I have to have 10 kids. I have to do all these things. That's not an accident any more than Sam's existence as a human being is an accident. That genetics combined themselves to produce a guy who looks like Trotsky and who espouses edgy viewpoints. I mean, that's, again, I have to, maybe I'm being a pedantic fuck, but that's this whole video. I mean, that's been the whole video this whole time. If you haven't clicked off by now, you're not going to click off now, Back to the video.
It's just building a business, and then I was saying stuff online, and then I guess people looked up to me. No. Mm-mm. There are plenty of quiet...
There's no source of providence that selected Elon Musk. He blasted himself up with his own rockets to this position.
Going to the Met Gala in the Satan costume. Okay? There are plenty of people like that. You don't accidentally become the hope of a nation. You don't accidentally become the hope of a generation. You don't.
Again, Sam is kind of sucking Elon's ass here, a lot like he criticized the friends of Elon that he mentioned. The hope of a generation. I don't know if that's true, man. I don't know if Elon is the hope of a generation. I think the hope of the generation is anybody who makes food and housing more affordable. Is Elon going to do that? Is he going to make food and housing more affordable? Is Elon going to reverse the pathological U.S. fear of increasing taxes on its wealthiest people? Is he going to do that? I highly fucking doubt it, man. I highly fucking doubt that Elon is going to do any of that. So why the fuck is he the hope of a generation? Unless you, Sam Hyde, are trying to suck his ass yourself. Just like you're trying to suck Asmongold's ass. Just like you're trying to suck Moist Critical's moist ass. Come on, man. Come on, bro. Come on. You're too obvious, man. The machine elves are not pleased. This is too obvious. I'm being cruel. I'm sorry, Sam. I bow to you. Sammy, my daddy. My father figure. The Hyde to my Dr. Jekyll. I bow to you. I'm sorry. I beg you, don't judge me for besmirching your name. Let's keep watching, shall we?
And I think he deserves a shot at course correction. He's been under attack by everybody for his whole entire career. So I think he deserves that shot.
As if being under attack forever makes you have merit. The humiliation ritual, ancient Masonic way of sussing out character based upon a person's ability to be resilient to humiliation, does that really produce a viable industry leader or ruler or leader of any form or subsect or subsection of culture? Does the ability to be humiliated and still maintain your ego really matter that much? Is that really the prime form of I don't know, membership? Like is that really what's still valued? Does that really still matter? If it does, should it still matter? Is that a good way of filtering out people? Or is it just a way of filtering out who will be a more loyal thrall to you versus who might provide useful but inconvenient dissent to your creepy ass organization? Is it really about compliance rather than mental fortitude? Is it really about sussing out who is willing to sacrifice their ego upon the altar of human benevolence? Oh, everyone will benefit from my contribution to humanity because I don't care about my ego. I care more about the cause. Is it really about that? Or is it just about, yes, sir, I'll obey you because you have blackmail on me? That's faggot shit. That's pathetic. And any society, any cult, any system that bases itself upon that is doomed. They're already dying out, and I hope they keep dying out. That's not meritocracy, is it? Is that a system based on merit? Even if it's a rogue system that arose within another system. Ooh, so spooky. We're the Guild of Calamitous Intent. We exist in the Venture Brothers cartoon universe. It's sad and pathetic. And it has no reason to continue to exist. It forces people to expose themselves just to be or to become human vessels for blackmail and shame. And that system needs to burn to ash, and the ashes need to be blown out of orbit, man. That system is done. It's finished. You're finished. It doesn't work anymore. I hope to God it never works again. And people are naturally inclined to perform. People are naturally inclined to be clowns or jesters. That's true. But a group that tries to scoop those people up and redirect their impulses to serve some sort of creepy greater good. Don't be surprised
If he fumbles it,
when you lose all of your potential adherents, when your group atrophies. Just like the birth rate is going down. It's not enough to offer people a little sanctuary where they can pretend that not fitting into society is okay. That's not enough. You have to either change society or you just have to ignore those people. You can't give them what they want. They don't want some fake boon, some artificial elevation. The ones that do are idiots. You don't want them in your ranks in the first place. They want the society that surrounds them to be better than the society that produced them. They want their own birth to have been better. Do you get it? Let Sam finish his points here.
then that's his legacy. I don't have any sort of committed opinion as to what's going to happen from here. I'm mostly concerned with Asmongold, as we said. Moist Critical, what games are they playing? Tall Guy, what was that game we played?
Path of Exile, Sam. Play Path of Exile, man. I'll play with you. Be great.
Raid.
Play PoE 1. It's like Diablo 2. You'd love it. Play it.
Last
I'll play with you.
Survivor. Big into that these days. I'm mostly doing that. I'm Elon's #1 ranked Diablo 4. Huge achievement. I'm #1 ranked Raid Shadow Legends. You know what? Last Survivor.
I'm #1 ranked podcaster. My podcast is #1, guys. This podcast, #1. Anyway, guys, that is the end of this long-ass video, so I'm not going to waste your time anymore. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate your viewership, and I hope you're doing well in your life. Don't take anything I said too seriously. This is just me riffing and ranting about something that I came across on YouTube. That's all it is. So, anyway, focus on yourself, stack some cash, get some bitches, get some hoes, aight? Don't smoke too much of that weed 'cause it make you go schizo, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, stay chill, and as always, guys, peace out.